Ooh, it's Friday night, gamers. How are y'all doing? And also, friends and thinkers, and anyone else who may have found their way here and identifies otherwise. Let me welcome you back, or perhaps for the first time, to Tales of Praxis. I'm your host, Aaron Suduko, the founder of WithTheTerribleFate.com, your online home for all of the most analytical, thoughtful, passionate studies of the storytelling of video games. In particular, when it comes to this Tales of Praxis series, which I've been running for the last 8 months, all and only Bandai Namco's Tales JRPGs. Been looking at them in an obscene amount of depth in hopes of excavating my own childhood experiences with them that inspired me to follow my own passion and interest in video games and stories and philosophy, as well as understanding the conversations that they hold with each other and with their players across time and space. And I'm not just saying that because I just rolled credits on Tales of Fantasia right before the stream, which is why I'm late. But it all does thematically work out and resonate. So if you're just discovering us, we do the live book clubs of various Tales games on this stream, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, starting now, going for 3 hours. We'll be adding additional streams for Beyond the Dawn, so stay tuned for that. Very excited. And we also have a host of written studies on withtheterriblefate.com. So check those out if you're looking for reading material on your favorite Tales games or want to discover something new over the weekend. We have more than you could hope for and then some. Hello, Grail. Hello, Pottery. Welcome to the weekend. I've been enjoying our short journey so far with Tales of Graces F. Excited to get back into it. I don't think we really have any updates ahead of the weekend. Wanted to make sure we were caught up on other stream stuff. As Aaron said, he wrapped on Tales of Fantasia. Actually, I stopped right before the credits because the final bosses were longer than I remembered, and I didn't want to be later than I already was to the stream. But I'm going to have plenty to reflect on this weekend, thinking about Symphonia, Dawn of the New World, and Fantasia. It was a much more interesting game than I remembered it from my childhood, especially in the context of everything we've been talking about in Tales of Praxis. So I'm sure there will be plenty to discuss as we go on. Hey, Mazel Tov, Foddery, congratulations. That is awesome. Are you excited? Hopefully not too overwhelmed by the move aspect of that. But yeah, that's a big deal. I'm excited for you, my friend. All right. I know we were just kicking off on Tales of Graces F, so I don't want to vamp for as long, but as we were talking about, Grail and I, before the stream started, joking, but only semi-joking, as I wrapped up the last stream, there's already a decent amount of biblical imagery and symbology in this. I don't want us to get too bogged down in that or frame up our entire playthrough of the game in that way when we're just starting out and seeing where things go. But we, of course, have this kind of magical idea of a garden with flowers that bloom all year round, very reminiscent of the garden with a capital G. I was also thinking we didn't talk about this as much during the last stream, but Sophie appearing there, not really knowing who she is or why she's there. Very kind of Eve-esque if you want to read it that way. And I had forgotten there's the whole eating of an apple that we had in the last stream also. But then, of course, what we did wrap with the last stream, and just to situate us again, Asbel and Sophie and Richard had just fallen from the garden down the hill and had woken up at night trying to find their path again. There are a variety of different references, depending on if you want to go with Dante or Milton or good OG Bible or anything else there. But I thought if you would humor me as a way of easing back into the stream, I couldn't find my Milton, but I looked up online Dartmouth's copy of Paradise Lost. So I thought I would situate us just as a way into that journey up the hillside with a bit of the very conclusion of Paradise Lost. So this is Milton's epic poem, basically recounting everything to do with the fall of man, the fall of Lucifer, and it ends with Adam and Eve being kicked out of the garden, whence Paradise Lost. So it's not to say that it's an exact match or the best articulation of what we've seen so far, but I found it nice earlier today to be meditating on some points of similarity and distinction between even the prose Milton uses and thinking about when they finally are kicked out of the garden and reflecting on what's next. versus where we are in Tales of Graces F in these early hours. So I'm going to read a little bit for you, and I haven't done recitation in quite a while, and we're easing into a Friday night, so I hope you'll excuse any flubs or under-rehearsed parts of this, but let's enjoy some truly classic poetry as we then ease into some classic gaming on a Friday night. I'll tell you what, I'll do you one better. I'll give you the stream overlay so we can be thinking about Milton in the context of Tales of Graces. Now too nigh the archangel stood, and from the other hill to their fixed station, all in bright array, the cherubim descended. On the ground gliding meteorous, as evening mist risen from a river o'er the marish glides, and gathers round fast at the laborer's heel, homeward returning. High in front advanced, the brandished sword of God before them blazed, fierce as a comet, which with torrid heat and vapor as the Libyan air adust, began to parch that temperate clime, whereat in either hand the hastening angel caught our lingering parents, and to the eastern gate led them direct, and down the cliff as fast to the subjected plain, then disappeared. They looking back, all the eastern side beheld of paradise, so late their happy seat, waved over by that flaming brand, the gate with dreadful faces thronged and fiery arms. Some natural tears they dropped, but wiped them soon. The world was all before them, where to choose their place of rest, and Providence their guide. They hand in hand with wandering steps, and slow through Eden took their solitary way. So, being cast out of the garden into Eden, but looking onward with some hope, and sealed out of that paradise in which they were initially begot and in which they initially found each other. Offered with no commentary, but simply as context with which we can adventure forward here. All right, my friends. Yes, I mean, it shouldn't be that surprising a thing, given I wrote an entire article about Judaism as a context through which to read Tales of the Abyss. And there you go. We haven't even started Tales of Graces F again, and we're already talking about other Tales games. But as we were talking about last time, one of the reasons this game is so interesting and fun is because in its singularity, it offers a range of different contexts through which to read it. And I was interested in that all the more so simply because I remember that kind of biblical context was not on my radar at all the first time I played it. And so for it to jump out that much struck me as interesting, maybe because of the time I spent thinking about that in relation to Tales of the Abyss, maybe just because I'm at a different point in my life now. But that's food for thought. We were, in one sense or another, down the hill, and we had run past the enemies in order to save, since my poor little PS3 engine that could doesn't have any kind of effective sleep function that I could figure out. So let's get some experience with these enemies, and then we'll progress upwards. I mean, I think what we more clearly did establish at the end of the day with Tales of Vesperia is that, I mean, call it Kojiki fanfiction, Shinto fanfiction, maybe. Certainly a retelling of a specific Shinto myth. So stranger things have happened than specific religious or mystical fanfics coming out of the Tales series. Hey, Chrissy, welcome back. Pleasure to see you. Sword Rain is a pretty good indicator of that. Demonic Sword Rain was one of my go-tos in this Fantasia playthrough that I just wrapped. It's hard to argue with cutting through enemies a million times and then slashing them up an extra time for good measure. Your second message took the words right out of my mouth, Pottery. It's tough to beat stabbing people with two swords. Me think, why stab with one sword when two sword do trick? Once you obtain a tech bonus, the next battle will offer up a tech bonus challenge with even tougher conditions than before. Each challenge you clear yields better rewards than the one that preceded it. That's fun incentive to outperform yourself each battle. I like that a little better than the grade stacking system in Tales of Berseria. Although I don't feel like I truly availed myself of that system either, because I remember early in the game it promised all of these special demon fights. I can't get the point of view with this to figure out which direction it wants me to go in. There we go. And then I ended up running into very few of those demons, so I feel like I wasn't doing what it wanted me to do. Oh, man. This is giving me acid flashbacks to Volt's temple in, in Tales of Symphonia. Yeah, Lloyd was the original Kevin. We all know this.
Get ready.
I think that's a good through line to a lot of the Tales protagonists. I mean, not that they're all purely pragmatic in their combat as opposed to theoretical or informed by other, elements of learning and discipline, but in many ways, I think a decent number of them do sort of craft their own combat techniques based on their own particular thinking in the situations in which they find themselves. Small enemy projectiles can be quite annoying, if not dangerous. Boy, you're telling me. If a foe is pelting you, perform a forward step to knock their projectiles away. So Graces really wants you to be mindful of what kind of attack is coming at you and wants you to be reactive by guiding the character you're controlling in the right way. We'll see how Aaron's reflexes are on that. I remember that happening a decent amount when I spent a lot of time just really working through all of Arise over a very long period of time, Pottery. When I just did my speed, it wasn't a speed through, but when I did my more efficient playthrough of it, I don't think it happened a single time. But I do believe with those systems, they want you to discover cool battles and they have interesting things in there. But yeah, I didn't find it as hard to proc on Arise as Berseria, but they're definitely rare encounters in both.
It's over.
Yeah, I mean, it's good practice to get Aaron reading out loud in the first place, Grail, but then also, like I was saying last stream, it is interesting to see like the narrative voice of the tutorials and the way in which they do seem to be talking to kids, as you would hope. The narrative voice that you get in different kinds of guidance in games is really interesting to me. And it's not always narratively substantive, but I think oftentimes, especially in thoughtful games, they do have a sort of voice that either reinforces or challenges the broader game in cool ways. I talk about that in my Xenoblade Chronicles 2 article, because if you've played that recently or remember, it does some pretty interesting things with the actual voice through which its tutorials are expressed. So it's one of those elements of gaming that I think oftentimes it's easier for us as players to write off as window dressing or something that just guides us in the background, but is just as much constitutive of the fiction and how it's being expressed as everything else.
Kind of scary, but you don't need to worry, okay? I'll protect you. Protect me?
I do miss the monoliths written in the ancient tongue, Pottery. Pour one out for my monoliths. And my ancient tongue, I suppose. And I think my green screen is having issues. One sec. That looks better.
What's that noise? Something's there. Hey, what's the big idea scaring us like that?
Not an egg bear.
All right, buddy. Time to play. We must be at our
Oh, Bear Hellion. Oh my god. Oh, I called out the wrong game.
absolute best. Yeah, dragon.
Speaking as Hysteria. Yeah, not to spend more time on the graphics, but I was not able to update the converter component for this stream, so I apologize, but hopefully by the time Monday rolls around, I will have a different setup that makes the video output a little crisper, so thank you for enduring the early stages of this playthrough. Oh, they wanted me to jump back there. I should really be spending a little bit more time to practice the right dodges. Oh, and then it switched it up. I should have jumped to the side there. There we go.
That was impressive, Asbel. It was nothing. Leave that sort of thing to me.
Well, now and see, I'm all fantasiaed up on time travel, so I want to say that Tales of Graces stole it from Tales of Vesperia. Everyone knows that no two works of fiction are allowed to use the same word without directly calling each other out. Chrissy, if you keep doing that, I'm going to bully you into like making an effort not to call yourself a newcomer. I will allow you to call yourself an intermediate, but none of this newbie stuff. You sat through at least one whole stream, and some of Dawn of the New World. I would also accept initiate. You can call yourself an initiate. When you earn a new title, pull up the title's menu to take a look at it. Once you equip it, you might just discover a whole new you. I like that thought. I wish I could discover a whole new me through a title.
See? With a team like ours, monsters don't stand a chance.
I did appreciate, this is just because Fantasia is really fresh in my head, but I promise I'm not going to make the whole Friday stream about Fantasia, but we were talking about how flexible titles are as a storytelling device on Wednesday, and I had forgotten one of the very cool little throwaway things about the conclusion of Fantasia without major spoilers is by the time you get to the final boss and confront him, he actually is so kind of casually impressed with the efforts of the heroes that he gives them basically a unique title acknowledging them as legendary heroes. Kind of in jest, but I think it says a lot about him and also in terms of how these storytellers think about titles and various modes of reference to characters.
I'm on your team?
Oh, pottery, that was totally on accident, but I love it. How meta can we get the stream? It's a Friday, so the answer is probably pretty fucking meta. Intermediate in training. Or an advanced neophyte. I prefer the advanced emphasis in advanced neophyte or neophyte plus. That sounds cool.
Yeah, of course you are. We need you, Richard.
I know exactly the scene you're talking about, pottery, and that is a lot of fun. I have a lot of love for that too. Some walls aren't meant to be broken down, etc. Ad nauseum.
You're not mad at me? But I insulted you. Richard, it's fine. Seriously, I'd already forgotten about it. Thank you. Come on, we need to hurry if we're gonna reach the top.
You know, Grail, just like mildly miffed. Not pissed, just like irked. Oh, man. One more thing for me to fucking do today. Got a lot of love for Douse. I don't think I had enough context to give him the credit he deserved the first time around. I think that's a big part of what it comes down to.
I see that Asbel isn't the only one growing accustomed to combat.
Richard, are you happy when Asbel smiles?
Well, I don't have a problem with smiling, but where did that come from?
So it makes you happy?
I haven't really thought about it.
Asbel was making a sad face earlier.
And you would rather see him happy?
I don't know. It's difficult for me to say for sure, but I think so.
Asbel and I are very similar. But I suspect the way we think about things is very different.
Let's leave it at that. Right now, we should return to the meadow. Let's use these routes to get back up the cliff.
Oh no, Grail, speaking of cameos. In this 5-hour video essay, I will prove that every Tales character is every other Tales character. I'll tag up on the save. We talked a lot about Shoshin last time. Another element of childlike thinking that I'm really enjoying, especially with Sophie, and the way she's trying to kind of uncover what makes people happy and what a human is there's a joke among philosophers that philosophers are basically kids who never grew up, because if you've ever spent any amount of time with a kid, the old trope about them always asking why about everything a million times such that you end up exhausted by it is totally true, and is also what philosophers do. So seeing this kind of ceaseless childlike curiosity about human nature coming out of Sophie, I think is a fun and unusual way for a Tales game to sort of foreground its philosophical inquiry that we expect and have studied and celebrated in all of the Tales games as well. I'm sure I would appreciate that if I had any background in Fire Emblem pottery.
Sophie, give me your hand. Here, I'll pull you up.
Yeah, exactly, Chrissy.
You're the next one up. What are you waiting for? Here, come on, take my hand.
Right.
Maybe I'll have to check it out then.
We made it back. It's amazing what friends can do when they work together. I'm really glad that both of you guys were here.
Friends?
Yeah, of course. We're all friends now, Richard.
Oh, I see.
You and I are friends now.
Am I your friend too?
Yeah, of course you are.
What is a friend supposed to do?
A friend helps you out when you're in trouble. You laugh together when you're happy. Oh, come on now, tell me the honest truth. Have you forgotten what it's like to have friends?
I don't know.
I know. I've got a great idea.
I have a better idea, so I'm going to interrupt Asbel. This is a small thing, but I think it's important to kind of sow the seeds as we're just starting to think through this game, and especially in terms of the things with which I'm preoccupied in terms of Tales of Praxis. Because remember, the whole thesis there is that these games are really concerned with actions and what it is to reflect on oneself such that one can govern one's actions in particular ways and make the impact one wants to in the world and in the communities and everything such as that. Notice that when Sophie asked Asbel, what's a friend? Asbel didn't give a kind of definition. He didn't give an essentialist explanation in terms of like, this is what a friend is based on the relation in which it stands to something else, or these fundamental attributes that inhere to someone such that we call them a friend. He talked about it immediately and directly, and again in a very childlike way, in terms of these are the things that a friend will do for you. So already foregrounding that idea of action in terms of what you need to know about the world and how people are in it, all just consists in the various ways in which people act concerning one another.
Let's use this tree to make a friendship pact.
Friendship pact?
It's a tradition in our town. If you carve your name in a tree and then join hands, they say your friendship will last forever. There.
I haven't heard that one, Chrissy, but I love that and I choose to believe it.
I read it.
Oh yeah.
It kind of makes me want to do that.
Together. Come on.
There are worse ways in which to make a friend. But it's heartfelt vandalism, and that makes all the difference.
There. Awesome. See? There you go.
I'm going to have to make the obligatory Majora's Mask reference because my publication is named with a terrible fate.
Everyone put your hand in.
How can you not love that motif?
What happens
friends.
All right. Now our friendship can never be broken.
Hey, look. Sun's coming up.
That's a pretty beautiful sunrise in a lo-fi PS3 era sort of way.
This view and this day for the rest of my life.
Master Asbel! Are you there?
Grail, that would never happen.
Master Richard!
Well, you know, they wouldn't need to make a pact if things were always going to be sunny and happy forever, right?
Hey, Frederick! Over here! Over here!
And they got a Pact Maker title. I fucking love this game already. I'm also not going to turn this stream into a discourse on the philosophy of language, but I should point out, we spent the time in the last stream talking about the significance of naming and what it is to basically use a name as a means of introducing someone to one's community and having a way of relating to that, and how sort of the locus of naming can oscillate between the namer and the namee according to that. Notice that pretty immediately, like we had the break of going from one stream to another, but this was really just a few minutes later if we had kept going. Why does Sophie need a name? Well, once you have a name, you can put it to use doing things like acts of friendship, like making this pact, reifying the bond that she intends to have with Asbel and Richard. So it's not some kind of idle thing. It's something that can be put to particular uses according to the impact that one wants to have in the world and the impact that one wants to have on one's relationships with other people. Oh, there was a skip. Don't want to miss that one.
It's such a familiar word. Yet, this is the first time I really understand what it means.
Maybe this is just going to be a philosophy of language stream, actually.
I was pondering the meaning of friendship.
If the game goads me into it, I'm not going to apologize for it.
Help each other out when you're in trouble. You laugh together when you're happy. Wait, I get it. You've never had a friend before, have you?
That's not true.
Look, it's okay. Sophie didn't have any friends before me either. And just because we made a pact doesn't mean you can't have other friends. You should friend it up with everyone you meet.
Friend it up!
To the capital.
I love that.
I think, yes, I would like that.
I don't know how I feel about being compared to Richard for real. Oh, that's a great picture. Evie, my darling dog, you're the first friend I've ever had. Please, can you tell me the meaning of friendship? I don't know if it's coming through on the camera, but I'm discovering now she's been licking the side of the couch for the last, probably 30 minutes. So, the mark of our friendship pact, if you're curious, is apparently a wet spot that is deeply ingrained within my couch. That will be interesting to keep track of, Padre, definitely. And I'm excited that you say the game touches on it. There's so much of later Wittgenstein, as I talk about in relation to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, in the book I wrote on that, focuses on the idea of basically different contexts in which we can put language to use for different social ends according to the different relationships in which we find ourselves. He refers to that idea, very broadly speaking and oversimplifying, as language games, and a lot of what he actually uses as models to show in his argumentation what it is that he's talking about is the idea of how we're taught language and how to communicate and interact as kids, with a lot of demonstratives and basically showing this is the word we use in this situation in order to do this. Like, we say brick, we point at brick, someone hands brick to us, right? Something like that. Because the thought goes, again, very simplistically, as we get older, we want to try to hypostasize or give sort of a metaphysical realism to all of these different things that don't really have any truth to the concepts beyond the fact that we use them for certain purposes in different contexts. And so the idea is basically to free ourselves from our philosophical commitments and baggage in the way that we were talking about with respect to Shoshin on the previous stream, by clearly attending to the uses to which language are put and the way in which we can learn how to act through language, initially through mimicry and then basically through the use that we absorb and internalize. The question being, how different is regular human agency from mimicry on this reading of it? So whether and how that comes up here will be very interesting to think about.
You can make a friendship pact near any tree you want.
So why
That's
don't we
right.
use
Once
the
we hit
language
really
that
cool
allows
sub and stream milestones, then we'll get really fancy timeless Eevee shots throughout the entire stream.
But how come?
I don't know.
Something
But
to
I
look
hope
forward to.
You and me and Richard can be friends forever, even after we grow up.
Either that, or I'll just find a special way to do it when we inevitably stream Tales of Vesperia for obvious and repeat-related reasons.
What about Hubert and Sharia?
We grew up together. We don't need one.
That itself is an interesting idea, too, that having grown up with someone else is kind of constitutive of a pact, even implicitly, if you don't mark a tree. And so you're kind of creating, or to use Pottery's word, mimicking that kind of bond of childhood friendship by enacting a friendship through a friendship pact with a tree. All right. And we're rolling. Your Majesty, thank goodness you're safe, but I must urge you to return to Lhant. I feel terrible about what happened with Bryce. I will readily accept censure later, Your Majesty, but for now I beg you to make haste back to Lhant. I need to retrain myself now to prompt NPCs to talk more than once, because in Fantasia they just always had a single line of dialogue to say to you when you tried to talk to them. I'll make sure no one suspicious gets anywhere near you. Oh, but not all of them have something more to say. So we'll have to exercise our judgment. Master Asbel, are you hurt? Is Prince Richard unharmed? Please hurry back to Lhant. Everyone's been worried sick. Lord Aston is terribly distraught. Please hurry straight home. Yeah, Chrissy, I'm sure Grail can tell you a thing or two about a thing or two there, because he's been enjoying at least some semi-parallel playthroughs of the games that we've been working through on stream, according to his own challenge runs. So you would say you've gotten some interesting insights through those sorts of play-along situations, right, Grail? I would hope that, and if anyone else is watching or engaging with these streams or the VODs, I would definitely encourage you, if you have access to the games we're playing, to play them through alongside, because one of the things that you should know, I emphasize to death, is the different perspective and point of view and accordingly content of action which each player brings to a video game, generally speaking. And so it will certainly be the case that your experience with even Tales of Grace's F, if you're playing through these very same sequences alongside us, will not be identical with the experiences we have on the stream. But I want to convince you the conversations we can have articulating the meaning of our own playthroughs with each other can also generate new insights that wouldn't have otherwise arisen had we just played through it in a vacuum, giving us a new context and sort of a synthetic playthrough that allows us to see the game in new ways, especially by virtue of having played through it as different people in different places in our lives. CC range. Minimum and maximum CC values are determined by your equipped weapon. However, they can be increased with skills and/or equipment with certain effects. Keep an eye out for such gear whenever you visit shops. This is more straightforward so far. I'm appreciating that. Hey, Duke Gregos. I hope I didn't just murder your handle. Nice to see you back. Yeah, welcome. That was a real pleasure to talk with Major Link back when the last Hero's Purpose installment came out. I imagine you're a fan since you said that's how you showed up here, so I also imagine you saw the teaser that he dropped today for the next installment. Very excited here too. I'm not going to make any promises, and I haven't spoken to Major Link about it yet, but I'm hopeful that we might get an opportunity to pick his brain further, Sean, that is, about how he's continuing to work through that series, because talk about great thinkers and interesting gamers. I mean, he's reading Zelda in a very cool and interesting way.
Look. Say, is it scary having amnesia?
I don't know. I haven't experienced anything like fear.
Oh, eye-opening. I appreciate that, Grail. Thank you. Eye-opening is what we aim for. So, made my night already. Haven't even been on for an hour yet.
Well, a little. I guess I didn't know how hard it would be to fight someone.
Then why did you choose to fight?
Well, Richard just looked so miserable, you know? I thought I might be able to help him out.
Ah, yes! Oh, victory! I'm racking up the W's on this stream so far. Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'll have to check it out. I thought that he was just releasing the teaser today, because I hadn't been keeping up with his schedule, I'm ashamed to say, so I thought it would be a while yet. Awesome. Well, we will definitely hit him up and see if we can, schedule another chat with him about it. 'Cause that last one was a lot of fun.
Amazing, Sophie. Where'd you learn that?
Where? I wonder.
Wonderful, but not surprising to hear that it does justice to the Zelda universe. That was one of the things, not to turn this into a Zelda stream this evening, but one of the things that really struck me and I respected speaking to Sean about the Hero's Purpose series was just the intense attention he pays in creating his fan fiction to fidelity and thematic consistency with the source series. I think it's really valuable and really hard to have that as your North Star. And I would have to imagine, well, I know actually, because he said so when we spoke with him, that that's a big part of what makes the episodes take so long to develop, is making sure that they have that fidelity inherent within them. But it pays off, in my opinion. Oh, early view on Patreon. Got it. We have a Patreon too, which I should really do more of that fun bonus content with. So if anyone like you, Grail, or I think you also sub, Chrissy, especially those who care enough about With a Terrible Fate to already be invested, thank you. And if you want it to be more useful to you, please feel free to shout out ideas at Aaron at any given time, because it's not that I don't want it to be valuable to you. It's just that I don't have a mind for that, and that's not where I focus most of my time on With a Terrible Fate, but I want to make it valuable to everyone.
You have disobeyed me for the last time.
Lord Aston, please do not be angry with Asbel. He saved my life.
I also feel like that's one of those laughs, Grail, not knowing anything about your cousin, where, like, sometimes, especially in games like this, one laughs simply because one's so uncomfortable. Like, I sort of had some of that feeling going back to the, like, corporal punishment moments in Tales of Symphonia also.
Respectfully, Your Highness, your life was in danger only because he spirited you away.
This is untrue, Lord Aston. I asked your son to show me the town. If there is blame to be assigned for our actions, it belongs to me alone.
Richard.
As you wish, Your Highness. I will forgive Asbel's role in the threat on your life.
I am grateful, Lord Aston.
But this is not over, Asbel. I told you to avoid Lhant Hill, and you disobeyed me. And worse, you made Hubert and Sheria lie to shield you. The search party was delayed for hours as a direct result of your actions. You are confined to your room until further notice.
Fine.
I'm sorry, Asbel. I tried.
Oh, congrats on the job. I feel you in terms of being old-fashioned and it being sometimes much more of a struggle than it needs to be, but I'm glad it's worked out. It's fantastic to hear.
That's okay.
Hope it's been a good first week
Who knows
back.
what he would have done if you hadn't said anything. Thanks, Richard.
I fear I have more news, Prince Richard. While you were out, we received an urgent message. Your father, the king, has taken ill. You have been ordered back to the capital without delay.
My father is sick?
I'm afraid so. You should prepare to depart at once. As we cannot allow Bryce to remain unguarded, I will escort you back myself.
I understand.
Hubert,
Yes, Dad?
you will join us as well.
You're taking me to the capital? Why does he get to go?
Because you are confined to your room. Or are you so thick-skulled that you've already forgotten?
Man, brutal.
Hubert gets all the fun. I'm sorry, Asbel.
Asbel is remarkably, admirably resilient for all of the, as you pointed out, Grail, physical and verbal abuse that his dad is hurling at
Don't
him.
worry, little brother. Have a good time, okay? Oh, okay. I'll buy you a bunch of souvenirs. He gets a vacation and I get punished. Just great.
Yeah, that sounds like quite a bit of effort, but I'm glad it paid off eventually.
It might take a little while, but I'll come back to Lhant someday.
I don't consider that shallow at all, Chrissy, and I will point out for your benefit, the wonderful idea of enamel pins which you had at the beginning of Tales of Praxis is still on my list. So as I settle into this Tales of Graces stream, I'm hopeful to take a step back and evaluate some of that stuff too in terms of how feasible it would be to get some of it off the ground. I love the symbol too. I'm glad that you love it. So hopefully we'll be able to show it in more places as opposed to online and in these limited run T-shirts that were only produced for the analysts who went to a few PAX conventions.
If you're ever in the capital, you should come see me. I'll show you around the castle.
Tales of capitalism. Oh no.
Oh, I'm definitely there.
Tales of patronage, let's call it. I would hardly say that with the terrible fate constitutes Tales of capitalism. Oh, but maybe you're talking about Duke Greygoss's job hunting experience as opposed to the merch.
Wait, here. It's not a reward. I'm just lending it to you. When you visit the castle, show this to the guards. They'll let me know you've arrived.
Gotcha. In that case, I'll hang on to it.
I wish I had more time here, but I have to go.
Okay, I'll see you around.
Oh no. If the site ever starts turning a profit, then maybe we can call it Tales of Capitalism.
Hubert's best interest.
Right now, we are just honored and grateful to the few fans who care enough to contribute to help us defray things like server costs, let alone pay for food and coffee and things like that. But truly, it's a labor of love and passion, and we're grateful for everyone who comes along on the ride with us. To Gregos, yeah, I hear you there. I don't know whether you dropped in on the last stream, but that was one of the things that we were talking about. Like, definitely a notion of, like we were saying, physical and verbal abuse and being brutal to the kids, but there is definitely a sense in which the Lord Aston seems to be acting out of a desire to really beat into Asbel what is going to be required of him as the eldest child of this lordship to take responsibility and governance. Not that that's necessarily an excuse, but I think it's the best explanation we have so far.
It's just...
Good question, Grail. Good question.
Hey, Hubert, take this with you. What is it? It's a good luck charm. It'll keep you from being scared, even when I'm not around. Hey, I don't get scared.
I love that motion in Hubert. I'm gonna steal that when I get frustrated.
We must be off.
Master Hubert.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that, Chrissy. Yeah, I always love wrangling whomever I can to do audio content as well. So Dan and I had talked about maybe doing one for Halloween, so I'll nudge him about that in case we can get something out. But yeah, even when it's just the two of us vamping on the things we're working on or what we're playing, we always enjoy doing that. So I appreciate that it's something you value as well.
Bye, my son.
See you, Richard. So long, Hubert. Buy me something really cool, okay?
Speaking of Tales of Capitalism.
Forgive me, Master Asbel, but
Yeah, I know. Back to my room.
Richard's ring! A ring that Richard loaned to us. If we show it at the castle, we'll be able to visit Richard. Raising the question, like I was saying, with the narrative voice. Who is the we to whom the narrator of the item description is speaking? Are we to take it to be from Asbel's voice? And yet it seemed as if Asbel, along with the rest of the party, was being taught things for the first time in the battle tutorials, so are we to understand that there are different narrative voices for the battle tutorials and the item descriptions? Again, it's not as if every game has a definitive answer to these sorts of questions, and they won't always lead somewhere interesting, but I've found, in my own work and thinking about these sorts of games that the more one can start to ask and just think about those questions, the more oftentimes one discovers there are at least interesting or unusual things to discover nestled in there.
Dad thinks I'm gonna stay in here? He's crazy.
That's better.
No door can hold me back. I'll just tweak this wire here. And turn it like this. And...
Oh, good question, Grail. Yeah, I'll check that once we get control back.
still locked. Well, crap. I really wanted to see the capital.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us, Duke Regus. Yeah, I think that's a really salient thing to keep in mind, and I imagine all of us can relate in one way or another to either someone in our life who is in that position or ourselves being kind of molded into something based on the expectations and heritage of someone else. I think even beyond like literal family businesses or lordships or things like that. That structure manifests in a lot of our lives and in a lot of our families in different ways. So that's definitely something that is worth meditating on as we keep going on here.
Might have been able to find someone who knows about Sophie.
You call that though?
Ah!
Sophie?
She's in the walls!
What are you doing out there?
I'm getting too spooked by Spooktober.
What's the capital?
Well, the capital is the biggest city in the whole kingdom.
It's where all the decisions get
Lots of
made.
people there, so I thought one of them might recognize you. That's why I want to go. But
I want to go too.
See, Grail, and when you put it that way, like I think that's a sentiment to which most of us can relate in one way or another.
oh, well, all right then. Let's sneak out of here and go together.
I hope so, at least. Otherwise, just you, I, and the lamppost are all weirdos, which is also an option, always.
Open the door.
It won't open.
Damn. Now what?
Asbel, move away from the door.
Huh? Okay.
Regal telling everyone to step back when they're imprisoned in Wolgaia.
Holy.
Why haven't you been using your hands the whole time?
It's open.
It didn't open. You broke it down. Well, whatever.
I have no conception of social norms, Asbel. Is that not how one opens doors?
Go. The whole manor probably heard that.
Okay.
But Asbel, when I destroyed the door, it made you smile? You are happy? Alright, we were going to look at the synopsis. Great suggestion, Grail. If I can find it. No. It's not in here, right? No, this is just the collector's book. Do we not have a synopsis yet? Tales of Graces, Tales of Arise crossover? Oh. Good catch. Look at you. Thank you, Grail. We have the Discovery book of all the points of interest we found. I love that. An enemy. Oh, there are so many books. We're carrying a whole library with us. The enemy book gives you the skinny on all the enemies you've encountered. In addition to stats, it also contains info on the attributes they're weak against and on the items they sometimes drop. User's Guide will occasionally be updated with useful info above and beyond what can be found in the other books. These new sections are added as you progress through the story, so be sure to check it out every now and again. And see, now with this tutorial interstitial, the information panel, this seems to be directed at the player, because here we have a concept of progressing through the story, which presumably would be meaningless to Asbel and the other characters, but we can make sense of as players. So what is that, a third narrative voice? But we were asking about the synopsis. To find their parents, Asbel and Hubert went to explore Lhant Hill. Yeah, so it seems, at least scanning it, Grail, like a sort of disinterested third-person omniscient or semi-omniscient perspective. Similar to what one gets in Tales of Symphonia. Slightly different than what one gets in Tales of Vesperia, because you might remember there were a lot of quotes interspersed to kind of ground us more directly in the limited perspectives of the characters in the story in those synopses, which I don't think we ever spoke that directly about, but was an interesting touch in games that are always pretty concerned about the perspective that's offered for their synopses. But we'll have to keep track of it to see whether it evolves or convolutes in various ways as the story evolves. As Tales diehards will know, that sometimes happens. Absolutely, Chrissy. Yep, that's a great comparison. No memory and also just very subdued emotional affect and sort of a lack of capacity to relate to the social dimensions of the world. And also girl with pink hair! Leaving the most trenchant insights for last, Grail. Good day, Master Asbel. Would you care to rest for a bit? We can take a nap? Is there something I can help you with? About Sophie? I'm afraid I don't know anything about her. However, I'm certain she is not the daughter of anyone I know. You told us that last time, Frederick. Do we have money yet? The items menu. Oh, it says in the sidebar, I think there. Oh, we have a tiny amount of money. I'm not gonna take the time to go to the shop. I know, it's like, what is the thought there, Grail? Like, because I almost think part of it is, now they care for Asbel, and they're going to follow Aston's directives, but they're going to do it to the letter because they want Asbel to be happy and live his own life if he can figure out how to do so. So like they won't do anything to help him break out of the room, but they're also not going to stop his egress if he gets out on his own. I think there's something kind of heartwarming about that. That's a good point, Chrissy. Yeah, maybe there's a more, I don't want to say cynical look at it, but like classist look at it, that they don't feel like they have standing to correct him when Master Aston isn't there. Or more accurately, I guess, that they never have standing to correct him. They only have standing to direct him according to Master Aston's orders. That strikes me as right. Well, if we're going by the equipment shop anyways. That's for Hubert, and I think we already got it, if memory serves. And that's all they have. All right. But items? Haha, the manual. I love that. Well, I feel like manual was not our friend last time, but I also feel like I can't walk by without at least getting the option to exercise. All right.
Don't worry, Sophie. I'll protect you until we find your
Ah, good to know, Grail. I'll keep that in mind. I do want to try out all the characters as we get into this.
My family. Will I have to leave like Richard did?
Yeah, but you'd be happy. Trust me.
If I become happy, would I smile like you are right now?
Yeah, maybe. Kajoink.
Why are you pinching my cheeks?
What a funny smile.
I can't talk.
Oh, very cute. This is the kind of game where I wish I could, like, raise Wittgenstein, may he rest in peace, from the dead, and teach him enough about video games to play a stream with him, and then say, okay, man, I'm going to show you this game. Tell me what you think of it. Because even something as simple, and I think kind of heartwarming, as the idea of a child like Sophie kind of getting what we tend to think of as the association between behavior and emotional state backwards. Like, instead of saying, oh, is your smile an indication that you're happy, saying like, oh, if I end up happy, then will I smile like you, and focusing on that kind of like behaviorist read of it in terms of the like the action consequences of what we take to be internal states. Like, I feel like a late Wittgenstein would really jam with a game that emphasizes that and deconstructs a lot of how we as adults are thought to think about the relationship between our behavior and inner lives, and how that situates us within our worlds. Avoiding running to our death is a pretty good rule of thumb. Agreed.
Over already?
Increasing CC. You can recover CC by waiting, moving, or guarding. You can also increase the amount of CC you can use by striking enemies. The more hits you land, the more CC you'll be able to use in the current battle. Aston's sword can gain up to 6 CC, so for starters, why not see if you can get your CC that high? Ah, a tutorial that comes with a challenge attached to it. And we still have a way to go on our titles, right? Oh, they auto-changed the titles. Well, I don't know if I love that. I was working on the other titles. Oh, I think this is one of the settings, actually, that I went through too quickly in the last stream. I think that's the reason that it's doing that. I'll go back to these then. Yes, that's what I was thinking of. Thank you, my real-life JRPG party. Between the lot of us, we can play this game. Yeah, I think that's right, Pottery. I don't want to do that. Gaming with a drunk Zizek. That would also definitely be a vibe, Chrissy. I don't know if it would be my vibe, but it would be something. I would love to find an excuse to wrangle my my mentor and old philosophy professor, Bernard Nickel, who is the man. Bernard, my friend, if you ever find these streams, I'm shouting you out. You made a huge impact on my life, man. But Bernard is a philosopher of language. He taught me the philosophy of language. It was also he who encouraged me to pursue the storytelling of video games from a philosophical program, and was actually my first formal supervisor at an undergraduate level in that work. So, needless to say, he is an absolutely admirable man, incredibly thoughtful, and knows a lot about the philosophy of language, but is also a huge gamer and really understands and appreciates the fact that their storytelling is unique and valuable. So getting him on a stream and chatting with him is, I guess the more I'm talking about it, a goal. So there you go. That can be a stream goal. Maybe that's what we need to achieve before I get a permanent EV cam. There you go, Chrissy. We have a goal. So, is this what you guys are saying? We should have it automatically switch once it hits rank 5? I'll put it on that. I might have misunderstood your messages, but... Because I like being efficient and getting skills out, but I like, in terms of my typical play styles, like grinding through all of the like skills that are attached to a weapon, like we were saying in Vesperia, or sort of similarly structured skills tethered to items before moving on to a different item, just for my peace of mind. But if there's a more efficient way to play, I'm all ears. So I am by no means the expert on that dimension of Tales games.
Are you tired, Sophie?
No.
You're really strong for someone so quiet.
If I'm strong, I can protect you.
Oh.
Wait, what? No, that's not how it works.
Yes, it is.
Protected by a girl. That's embarrassing.
Asbel, if you really want to know, open your mind!
I want to protect you.
Okay, how about this? We'll race to that house over there.
Qual is my friend, Grail. I'm with you there.
Whoever wins gets to protect the other person. Deal?
Asbel is a kid at the start of an adventure that I think is going to do quite a bit to open his mind and help him to establish his own perspective on the world and not just what the societal norms of his culture have imposed on him. So if you like those sorts of themes, I would even invite you to stick around just for that. But don't stick around just for that.
Outrun me. Ready? Go!
Well... I cooked and ate a gourmet meal while you were finishing up.
You're really fast.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was gesturing at too, Duke, I guess.
I win.
Handsomely.
Now I'll protect you.
Oh.
Oh, I can't believe it.
It's also, like, I don't want to overstate the value of opening a Tales game in this kind of epic narrative with a focus on children, but in all seriousness, notice how cool that little moment is, right? Like, Asbel clearly has this preconceptions of what it is to be a boy versus a girl. He tries to impose those on his relationship with Sophie, but all it takes is like a kid's game, a race, a challenge to totally overturn that preconception, right? Like, nope, I'm faster than you, so I'm the one who's going to protect you. Over and done, right? Doesn't turn into some sort of contentious debate or resentment or any of the grossness that can manifest in more adult relationships that are governed by those things.
I was supposed to win. I'm supposed to protect you. Next time, I'm gonna win, no matter what.
Or it all comes down to B-arts.
Asbel, is Sharia okay?
She'll be okay. We can't take her with us because her illness might act up.
Illness?
She's been sick since birth, but everyone gets sick, right?
Really? I don't remember ever being sick.
Someday I'll stop being surprised by you, Sophie. But you sure are weird sometimes.
Weird? What does that mean?
It means you're weird, that's all.
Sophie is Sophie.
In your case, it means I'll never get bored when I'm with you.
Then you are weird too, Asbel.
That just sounds weird coming from you.
Whoa, Duke Regas, that's amazing. I know, I can barely bully myself into running a few miles for my health, so people who can actually run with a capital R, mind-blowing. People can do so many different amazing things with their bodies and minds. Another cool real-life aspect of the JRPG mindset, right? Being able to celebrate everyone for their unique abilities and specialties and support each other through those specializations. Do you have an enemy book? Aaron almost forgot to do the voices. There are all kinds of perks for becoming a monster expert, you know. When you finally reach my level, accolades will fall upon you like rain. I see you possess the manual. Would you like to hear more about it? Please! The manual allows you to fight battles in manual mode. Even the tutorials are funny. How many times can we say manual in the same sentence? In the default semi-auto mode, attacking an enemy with X will cause you to automatically advance toward the enemy, but in manual mode, pressing X will cause you to use your weapon without moving. You can switch between modes at any time from the arts menu. As you might imagine, it's a bit difficult to manually judge the best distance for battling an enemy. If you're not yet accustomed to combat, you fucking child, I'd recommend sticking with semi-auto mode. But if you prefer to experience more in-depth battles, manual mode is the way to go. And the semi-automatic manual just sounds like a firearm. Oh my god, no, I'd forgotten that, Grail. I think it's because as much as I love the multiplayer, unlike you, it sounds, I've only had the opportunity to use it very, very rarely, and usually later in the games, so I don't think I've ever really clocked that in the same way. What, can you give me like an example of the unlock requirements? Like I can't picture one of those moments in my head. Is it just gated behind a certain story event in some of the games? That I do remember, Pottery. Because, as is a foregone conclusion from the study I published, I spent most of the game up until the point when I could unlock it, hunting the way in which I could make Rapide the representative of the party on the world map. To no one's surprise. This isn't just any old cow. She's a true Windor cow, the pride of our nation. Moo! Windor cows! Oh, they're carefree cows. I love that.
Cows sure do make some really weird noises. Moo!
Oh, I see. Interesting, Grail.
Ow! Hey, take it easy, cow. Oh, you want to play? Let's go. Yeah. Yeah.
Looks like more of a like a burnt orange to me. But I'm also decently colorblind, so I'm not one to judge.
Lost.
Was it fun?
Boy.
Asked the cow.
Asbel is racking up the L's between racing Sophie and fighting the cow.
Okay. But why were your noises weirder than the cows?
No one asked you.
Oh, there you go. There you go, Dugregos. Well, memory and what one does with it certainly is a key tenet and theme that the Tales games meditate on. So I imagine that will be a big part of our upcoming journey as well.
Hostiles. Huh, try this on. Eagle's eye.
Okay.
Yeah, tornado blade. Yeah. Yeah, take that. Huh. 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 Ringer.
I keep hitting L1 on my controller to try to guard. Vesperia has ruined me for the traditional button layouts. Macaroni yellow. That's a good name for a color. Makes me hungry, like I was through most of our Tales of Berseria run. It's true. I remember that even from back in the day when I was a kid with like a box of Crayola crayons. You remember that vibe? Like, you open them as a kid and you think there are 5 colors, like purple, blue, red, whatever. But oh no. Especially when you get those like advanced artist boxes that have like nutty pastel colors that you never knew existed. Makes you appreciate why so many philosophers at one point or another in their careers turned to color theory. I could never bring myself to care about that in philosophy, but God help me, a lot of interesting issues do intersect there. I never get tired of watching all the people that go through the docks. Just imagining where they're from or what they're here for. It is so thrilling. Is that true? I've never heard that. That's wild. I've always just assumed mac and cheese is yellow, but maybe that's just a preconceived notion I've had that I've never bothered to voice to anyone to raise the debate about it. Rebecca is a color? Whoa. Hold the phone, you're blowing my mind. We're only on stream number 2 of this JRPG, and my mind is being blown, not by the plot, but by colors. What's going on? Ugh, just give me a little more time to sleep. See, I like this vibe for a sailor, because I feel like oftentimes in Tales games we'll just see them hanging out at the docks and having infinite, unbelievable energy. But I feel like if I were actually a sailor, with the workload and schedule that is demanded of your average sailor, this would be me, hanging out exhausted and broken in this bed in a port town. I married him after we fell in love during a sea voyage, but on land all he does is sleep. And that would be my wife complaining about me, were I a sailor.
Like you's got an apple and a Chelsea.
Well, I still remember all the amazing viral commotion back when I was an undergrad about that viral photo of the dress where people saw the colors in different ways, according to background context or something. I don't quite remember what the lesson was there, but it was interesting because I was doing philosophy of mind at the time, and so we like argued it to death in our class, which was fun and interesting. It sounds similar, but yeah, we'll have to check it out. Yeah, Mary in the black and white room, right, Chrissy? I'm sure you've stumbled upon that famous thought experiment. Yeah. Philosophy of mind, not my jam, but qualia are certainly interesting things to think about conceptually.
Then let's get dualizing.
Dualizing?
It's where you make an item by combining these things we call materials.
Can I really do that?
Sure, just talk to one of us turtles, or else hits the shops in town.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who remembers that dress. I was haunted by it for quite a while. I thought it was never going to go away.
It's a dualized book.
We have to read? Oh, what a pain.
Boo! It's like my favorite line. I tweeted this when I got to it. It's really early on in Tales of Destiny, but when you first get to Pandaria, after the Draconis, if you look at the shelves that, I'm blanking on his name, but that Gar's archery teacher has in his home, there's one that has a philosophy book on it, and Stun's reaction is just, yikes, it's a philosophy book. I felt that reaction deep in my bones.
Lazy, eh, kid? Well, no worries. I'll teach you.
Yep, he gave up his basedness. Although I will say, like, focusing on action and how to actually implement the knowledge as opposed to reading and conceptually absorbing it, it's of a piece with what I was talking about earlier in terms of how Asbel demonstratively defined friendship.
Well, all right.
Now you just copy everything I does, yeah?
Philosophical zombies, Chrissy. Oh, you're giving me acid flashbacks to that philosophy of mind course I was talking about. Oh, help me. Gonna have a breakdown on the stream.
Hey, don't be copying how I talks.
Yous can dualize at any shops in the world. All you needs is 2 items, and bam, you're rolling in gravy. I don't even have to point out that that's a different narrative voice than the others. Ready to dualize. First, choose an apple. All right. Apple. All right. Good. Now choose a gel seed. Like all good things in life, dualizing costs money. But hey, what are you gonna do? Pay me. And these poor pure of heart kids aren't gonna be like Velvet bullying the turtles into giving up its entire profit margin. Dualizing has tons of applications. You can cook, you can make equipments, you can even make cashable items to sell for monetary gains. Try out lots of combinations, yeah?
Huh, that's it? Ha, that was easy.
You's got talent for such little tadpoles.
Hey, don't treat me like a kid.
I'm a grown-up. I'm 11 years old and 2 days since the last stream. I'm basically ancient. I saw Prince Richard himself in the flesh. The old Mr. Moneybags problem of late game. Not a problem, just a definite vibe. Yeah. I reached that point in Tales of Fantasia before it wrapped up where I had given up on buying things because I was poor, and then I went through a few of the late game dungeons and I looked and I was like, oh, now the party is a bunch of multimillionaires. That's fine. Yeah, that would be an interesting question to ask Dan about, Chrissy, for sure. How was the Brooklyn accent translated from original Japanese context? They must have something at least somewhat analogous. Either that or just someone with localization direction had a very clear and funny vision in mind for it. This is the boarding dock for the ferry between Barona and the port to Barona. All right. Oh, we can ride for cheap because we're babies. Excellent. It wasn't the longest voyage, but then again, as we talked about last time, these are very small people, so it perhaps seemed like a longer voyage to them.
Is this your first boat ride?
I don't know, but I'm nervous. My heart is fluttery.
That does seem like the sort of situation that would be conducive to infinite money, Grail.
It happened as soon as I saw the capital.
I'm too excited to be nervous.
You are?
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be awesome for you and me to jump in a boat and sail around the world?
Oh.
You and me?
Well, other people could come, like Hubert and Sheria and maybe even Richard. We'd have so much fun, you'd forget to be nervous.
It's a great question, Chrissy. The two that I would call out off the top of my head would actually be the King of the Red Lions from Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, because there's just such a magic to traveling on the Great Sea in that game for me and for so many others. And so I think in terms of like an intimate and personally meaningful like narrative experience on the open ocean, it's hard to top that in my book. And then I don't know why this is the first one that comes to mind because I haven't played this game in a coon's age. So I couldn't even tell you the name, but I'm sure someone else on the stream probably could. But the airship in Final Fantasy X. For some reason, maybe it is the special way it has of navigating the map or something, but that jumps out to me as a memorable one as well.
And then we could sail around and try to recover your memory.
That sounds nice.
Hey, we're almost to Barona. Boy, are Hubert and Richard gonna be surprised to see us.
I also don't have a lot of ship-related memories in my real life, though, so maybe that's why mine are more informed by the game experience as opposed to the really touching relationship you drew between Pokemon and your childhood fairy memories, which I love. First time in Barona, be sure to catch the Castle and Valkanis Creus. The Knight Academy's a popular spot too. Oh, Asbel can see his aspirational future of becoming a knight play out before him in real time. Is it a dock or a bridge? Who's to say? It's a very long dock. He's an ambitious kid, there's no doubt about that. I'm actually marveling because I don't want to say too much about this because I want to be really careful about spoilers for people who haven't played this before because I think it is worth it to experience it for the first time in your own. So I'll put it this way, and I think if you know, then you'll know. I have no memory at all of them like leaving Lhant this early in any way.
Huge. It's nothing like life back in Lhant.
So it's really interesting for me to rediscover this all. Already, like I've said with the last few games, there's evidently tons that I don't remember as vividly as I thought I would. It's part of why we're doing this. Oh, warships. That's a very interesting vibe for sure. Well, that'll be interesting to see, Chrissy, because I could also see him being like relationships between lordships and their governing kingdoms are really interesting, right? Because I could imagine Asbel being a local celebrity in Lhant because he's the son of the lord, but maybe that lordship's not all that important at the end of the day. So maybe he has sort of an outsized sense of his own like significance to the world from having grown up in Lhant, and so this might be kind of a humbling experience for him to be beyond its borders.
Asbel?
Sure, yeah.
Sharia? What are you doing here? I came here to see a doctor.
Yeah, that would make sense, Pottery, except I only played it the one time, so I don't think that's part of it.
I should have known you couldn't stay away, Asbel.
Either my memory is shit, or it's been too long, or I just play too many games and so they all get muddled in my head. But I suppose three things can be true.
So what are you doing here anyway? I'm looking for someone who might know Sophie, but I also might swing by the Night Academy. Oh, and I'm definitely gonna visit Richard.
And I'm gonna get an ice cream, and then I'm gonna find a dog.
He's the prince, Asbel. You can't just waltz into his castle and start yakking away.
Yes, I can.
Sure I can. That's why he gave me this. A ring?
Stealing my lines.
Not just any ring. This ring proves I'm Richard's friend. Come on, follow me to the castle, and I'll show you what this baby can do.
Asbel, this is a generic prize from a box of frosted flakes. There's this really neat instructor at the Night Academy that I'd give anything to see again. I love him. Haha, that idea's got to go on the list. We could use the same acronym, with a terrible friendship. It's also kind of consonant with the homage to Majora's Mask. Windor is so nice. The weather is fine. There's so much nature to see. I'm here from Strata, and it's certainly been worth the trip. You're here to see the prince? Are you kidding me? I was born and raised in Barona, and I haven't seen His Highness in person once. Ever. Yeah, but I'm Asbel Lhant. I can do whatever the hell I want. Oh dear, this clothing looks like it's about to fall apart. I pulled this out a bit ago. Maybe you kids would like it, hmm? Oh, a feather, yes. All right. Now we're rolling in it. Yeah, well, I'm interested to see how that evolves as we continue to work through the game, Grail, because at least right now, in the way I'm modeling it in my head, it seemed like the map was much bigger than the ship journey that really did just seem like a kind of ferry ride in the way that Chrissy was talking about. So I almost feel to me right now, not having played through the rest of the game recently as you have, that it makes sense to have this weird dual feeling that it's a big, expansive journey, and yet it's not actually covering that much ground because, again, like from their perspective, they're kids. They have no sense of how big the world really is. So even stepping a few steps outside of town to Lhant Hill, right, is this big, epic adventure that's been disallowed, and they face danger and things like that. So it's a kind of scope ambiguity that seems to make sense for the perspective of the story, at least as I'm understanding it so far. When Creus glows, its color is based on the eleth it's absorbed. If it contains wind eleth, for example, then it'll glow green. Oh, like the one we saw. Creus can only absorb a single type of eleth energy at one time, you see. Speaking of which, there's something else that's fresh and packed with eleth. Ha, tomato. People are giving us so many things. It must be because we're kids. Thanks, mister. Ah, the Knight Academy. Alright, that was one of the places on our list. Are you ready for bed, then? Not even gonna charge us? Oh, yes you are. Oh, it's expensive. But there might be an inn scene. That's worth any amount of money. No inn scene, alas.
What a pretty ring! The stone is made
Yeah,
of
thanks, Grail.
Creus.
I'll see if we have it already.
You see the Aleph shine. Don't you think it's beautiful, Sophie?
Creus. Elith.
It's too big for me.
Hey, quit messing with the ring. I'm only borrowing it from Richard, you know?
What? It's Richard's ring?
Can't have it.
Well, maybe I don't want it.
Yeah, right. You're always trying to take my stuff.
But that's not even yours.
It wouldn't fit your scrawny fingers anyway.
What? Then you should give me one that does fit.
Why me? Besides, you're too young for rings. I'll buy you one someday when you grow up.
I'll remember that.
Asbel. I know you're an 11-year-old boy, and I can't really tell you to be more mature, but be nicer to poor Sharia, my man. Oh yeah, I can hear that track vividly in my head too, Chrissy. How are you enjoying playing through it again? Are you doing it to get excited and prepped for rebirth, or just you're in the mood after a while? Scary times we live in they are. Rumor has it that Lord Aston's in a tight political position right now. His problems began when he turned down a secret request from Archduke Cedric, or so the rumors go. What was the secret request? Will you tell me more? I certainly don't envy Lord Aston right now. No, not at all. Ugh. Exactly. Sharia will remember that too, Gregos. Just wait. Just wait. It's not that I don't like him, but doesn't this sound a little too perfect to you? Come on, Victoria. Do you have something against Captain Malik? Now that's a name I know. Oh, I'd forgotten that you'd never finished one. I hope you do. It's a, oh, I guess we can't go here yet. Well, we checked. It's a great one to play all the way through, as you know, Dan and I will attest. This is a nice capital theme also. I'm enjoying this music. Feels just bombastic enough without being so larger than life as we got in Cisteria and Berseria, which made sense for their worlds, but this is not the desolation. Oh, good catch, Grail. Well, we'll have to see if we can keep an eye out for her then as we go through this. So I'm telling you, even I right now am not making as much of an effort as I should, but especially in worlds and stories so robust as the Tales games, it always makes sense to talk to the NPCs as you go. It's everything we've been saying forever about the importance of actually, speaking of the philosophy of reading books, unlike Asbel, like, look at the texts, look at all the information about the world, look at the people who people the world, right? I'm training right now. My enemy uses charged attacks, but I can dodge them if I pay attention, even if some of the NPCs are mostly just trying to learn the combat system along with you. The spider jumped right in front of me a bit ago, and I wound up getting my lunch handed to me. No way they'll let me be a knight if this keeps up. Oh, well, thank you, Chrissy. That's nice of you to say. You know I'm equally appreciative of your insights, so the feeling is mutual. Yeah, I'm with you there, Grail. It definitely feels homogeneous for a capital. But I also feel like for this kind of kingdom, or just like big Tales kingdoms in general, having a somewhat homogeneous feel, especially to the capital city, makes sense and feels right. Whereas if it were more interesting and diverse, it would almost pull against a lot of the theming of it as a monolithic capital. And Tokyo immediately comes to mind in the same way for me. It gives me a similar vibe to what we're experiencing here. I'm going to open a shop right here, a shop nobody's ever seen. Oh, I wonder if we'll see that come to pass before all's said and done. Royal Sanctuary up ahead. Sure, whatever. Fuck that. Can we go, or is he not even going to be interested enough to go? Someone snuck into the sanctuary. It better not have been you meddling kids. Oh no. We've stumbled through a time portal into an episode of Scooby-Doo. Just like that episode of Supernatural in which they literally stumble into an episode of Scooby-Doo. See, it's all connected. Oh, we can't even go in. But see, that is nice while we're taking our time with the first motions of the plot here and thinking about like the little bits of narrative language that you get in a video game. Where was the sign? Was it all the way back here? Yeah, it was back here. So notice, we get this sign read directly from Asbel's point of view, so we get not just the words on it, but also very clearly the fact that within Asbel's psychology, he does not care about the royal sanctuary, right? And so when we have that as context, it doesn't just serve as a constituent of the story on its own in terms of what Asbel's thinking, it also serves as an explanation of the gameplay limitations in the story. Because yeah, the sanctuary is here, but you might be throwing up your hands saying, what the fuck, why can't we go in? Well, we know why we can't go in. It's because Asbel doesn't give a shit about it, right? Little touches like that, similar to things like NPC dialogue and the library text that we were talking about. I don't feel like we attend to them and really think about them as often as we ought to, but they really, to me, are the million little things that go a pretty great distance towards not just fleshing out the world of a game, but also articulating and adding like the key nuance to its storytelling that is a big part of why we keep coming back to these year after year, time after time. And you can also get pie sheets, which is awesome. The literal base of all sorts of dishes. It should have a flaky texture and be tasty even when cold. Damn, I wish I could read. When I was young and the royal sanctuary was still open, you could find water of absolution there. We used to sneak into the sanctuary at night all the time. Not even our father could find us in there. Oh, very cool, Grail. And see, adding nuance to nuance. See, I wouldn't even have known that during my first playthrough of the game because I think I only stuck to piloting the party through Asbel. So now we know, as we switch up characters, we can also get their different perspectives and commentaries on the world that they're experiencing, which is a very typically Tales touch, which I love. Justin, where have you been? How could you abandon your parents like that, you ungrateful little... Huh? You're not Justin? Call the ambulance. The bright eyes of the energetic dog seem to be trying to speak to you. Press select during battle to switch between control modes. Woof. Leave it to the dogs in the Tales games to be the most knowledgeable characters. Evie has left her perch, or I would have swiveled back to her and called her out again. She's keeping her knowledge about this playthrough to herself. Hey, there you go, Chrissy. I'm surprised it took you this long in the stream to work in a Muse reference. That's awesome, though. 20 years old. That's huge. Man, I felt like an old person because I was so excited about Blink-182's new album, and remain so excited about it, and I love it. But I definitely felt like one of the memed old fellows who's constantly trying to recapture his punk youth. And I'm not even one of their older fans. I'm training right now. Oh, this is the same guy. We already spoke with you. Tutorial dog, exactly, Grail. Have you heard the latest news? Apparently our neighbor... Oh, don't be silly the way I hear it. Oh, I just had an out-of-body experience where I realized I'm becoming my dad because when I was coming up as a kid, when I was really little, like he would read stories to me before I would go to bed, and he would always do the voices for all the characters in a very similar way to how I'm doing them for you now. My wonderful virtual children that you are. No, I'm kidding. It's egalitarian here in our real-life JRPG party. This castle is the residence of His Majesty, King Ferdinand IV. Dad rock. Is that a pejorative term? It sounds like a pejorative term, especially based on your response. I've heard butt rock. That was my most recent introduction to a new subgenre. Someone told me what that was a month or two ago. I think it was Dan, actually, in reference to bands like Creed. I love Creed, by the way. I will not apologize for that. All titled nobility, whether they be stationed here or elsewhere, must swear an oath of fealty to His Majesty, like the dogs they are. Ha, you thought we were out of the pet motif from the last stream? No, we're still right there in that sweet spot. There's no need to go this way. To the castle? Then where are we going? I assumed Richard would be in the castle. And this is not a way, right? Padre, I learned so many things from you. Is there such a thing as dad butt rock? Or are the two mutually exclusive? See, when I talk about analytical rigor on With a Terrible Fate, these are the sorts of analyses which you can anticipate. The essence of music genre. I talked to one of the guards. Maybe I need to talk to the other one. Is that what butt rock refers to? The fact that one shakes one's butt? I thought it was like, oh, this music is ass. Of course I talked to the wrong guard.
Hey, Mr. Guard.
That is just karma for Aaron extolling the virtues of talking to everyone and reading all the texts and then overlooking one half of the guards.
Check this out.
That's the prince's ring. You must be Asbel. The prince told us to expect your arrival.
You're goddamn right. Now, say my name again.
Wow, it really worked. So, is His Highness busy? I'd love to chat if it's not too much trouble.
Ass rock. Yeah, that's something I would listen to with pride.
I hope he has time. His father was pretty sick after all.
Bookie in my butt. That's a new one. That's one of my favorite things about doing these live book clubs. I can always count on the stream to teach me so many things on any given day. And often they'll have nothing to do with the game, but that's part of what makes it so edifying and enriching. The various dimensions of it, just like as we've been talking about in a game like Tales of Grace's F. Plenty of poignancy, plenty of emotional salience, but not just in terms of pathos, also in terms of comedy and lightheartedness. It's a complex tapestry.
I shall inquire after His Highness. In the meantime, perhaps you could wait somewhere less conspicuous.
Like in this cardboard
I
box.
suggest a square with a Valkanus Creus. It's a central location and easy to find. Besides, the Valkanus Creus itself is well worth the trip. You don't see a hunk of Creus that large just anywhere.
Sounds good. We'll go wait there. You heard the man. Let's head to the square with the Valkanus Creus.
This is fun to think about too, because maybe this is just recapitulating what we've already spoken about, but thinking about how young this whole party is, I imagine we could get a decent amount of mileage too out of thinking of the idea that Asbel is kind of playing at being the party leader in a JRPG before he really understands what that means and what responsibilities that role entails. Like, he's so eager to order everyone around and say, okay, we're going here next, and I'll figure out how we can do that. But in a way that's kind of, naive, as we would expect of a child, right? Recognizing which voiceover, Chrissy? The guards or Asbel's? The Valkanus, the Royal Sanctuary, there's so much to see in Barona. But not so much that you have to say, apparently. Man, that is a thing of beauty, isn't it?
Wow, so this is a Valkanus Creus. I never imagined it would be this big. This thing is even bigger than the windmills in Lhant.
I would be sure that's the case, Chrissy. You know, these Tales games are great for reusing recognizable voice actors in a huge range of roles. And especially the Tales games, like, seem to have a decent amount of overlap with English dubs of anime too, I've noticed.
It's nothing like any Creus I've ever seen. What's its proper name again? Glow something?
Glow something! Got it in one.
Glowandi. It means the Green Mother.
That is a pretty cool name.
Hey, Richard.
Sorry I'm late, Asbel. Sophie? Sheria? It's good to see you again.
Check out my cool hat.
Should you really be walking around by yourself?
It's okay. I think he brought a friend.
Ah, gotcha.
It's also relative, Grail, right? Like, compared to Lhant, there's a lot to see. It's perhaps just a more provincial kind of kingdom. It will be interesting to keep in mind and see how our impressions of this change based on the way in which the other two kingdoms end up being represented.
And the source of her prosperity. It's our most treasured possession.
I don't have really any recollection of how the meaning of the Creus evolves over the course of this game, but I will say Richard says things like that, and especially in the Tales of Praxis context, I get this itch of trepidation thinking about the Eye of Atimony and the way in which it is a little bit of a symbol and a source of prosperity, and also a few other things that end up having an impact in Tales of Destiny.
But enough history. I'm pleased to see you all again, and so soon.
How's your father doing?
He's going to be all right.
A bar and an inn. It does cover most of the bases, doesn't it, Chrissy?
That's great news.
Yes, although, well, he's recovering. That's
Oh, I had a stroke. I
what's your
apologize.
plan?
The end of that line was, "That's the important thing." If you didn't read the text before my thumb twitch got it out of the way.
I don't know. Maybe wander around town, see the sights?
Well, definitely plenty to talk about once we get there, Grail. No doubt about that. It is great because talk about just like the level of trust I'm willing to extend to the creators of the Tales games. Like, you walk into a game where it's billed right off the bat as being a struggle between three kingdoms, you know they're going to have a bunch of interesting points of comparison and contrast between those three kingdoms, not only in terms of their interests and the characters in them, but also just in terms of how they're holistically represented and differentiated from each other. Similar to the sorts of vibes you get in, among many other JRPGs, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is one that really has stuck with me in that sense.
That sounds fun.
You should come.
I don't know. That could be a bit tricky.
You don't want to come with us?
You know why. I already broke that seal hours ago anyway. It was more of a Wittgenstein seal, but it's all connected. I fought Kratos and he released all his mana and then a million blades and Mobius came pouring out of it. And language games.
No, it's just... he's a prince, you know?
Well then, we'll just have to make him our honorary big brother.
That's one way to go about it.
Titles! We should get a title counter up on the screen.
Come on.
Every time the game does something narratively interesting with titles.
Asbel, people are going to notice if you're wandering around with a young man named Richard.
It's fine. I have a wide array of colorful, garish hats with which to disguise myself.
Oh, right. So,
They're stanzas. They're really good quality. Tiger Festival! Ah, it came back. I love it.
that's perfect.
Don't you love that too? She was given a name. She was shown how to use a name through the gesture of forging the friendship pact. And now, to go back to what you were saying, Pottery, about the transition from mimicry to agency, she's making use of a name and suggesting it herself for the ends of the party and what it is that they're trying to do for someone else. Come full circle. Yeah, Pottery. And don't think I didn't make it simply because you were on the stream and I knew that you would recognize it. It's gotta be quality on my end, otherwise, no fucking deal.
These two are really something. Please forgive them, Your Highness.
It's fine, Cheria. I love it. From now on, I'm your big brother Tiger Festival.
Sweet. I've always wanted to have an older brother.
Our older brother, Tiger Festival.
Exactly. Now, why don't you let me show you around the capital? First, there's a special place I want you to see. It's my way of thanking you for our good times in Lhant. We'll go through the North Gate and follow the road for a little bit.
Where exactly are we going?
Don't worry, you'll see.
It definitely seems like the sort of thing that would
I don't know about... Hey!
have the potential to be iconic in the way that so many of their in-jokes are, Grail. I mean, I think it has its own language for references, to be fair, Grail, right? Like its whole EX dungeon, I still maintain stands kind of alone as a really thoughtful and interestingly holistic way of tying together references and allusions to a lot of different things in the games. And then its whole artifact system, not so much, can't be references to other Tales games, but an interesting way of interweaving Bamco history into it. So I know what you mean, but I think one of the things I liked about Tales of Arise was how it seemed to offer sort of its own reimagining of a lot of the standard tropes in the series in a way that kind of makes it feel a little more of an individual game and statement to me, in kind of the same way as we were talking about in terms of Tales of Graces. And I think that's part of what gives it its distinctive flavor for me.
You know, the Elith from the Valkanus Creus is what turns the windmills in Lhant.
Oh.
Okay, fine, that bores you too. But did you know that humans and monsters are made of almost the exact same stuff?
Are you talking about the fact that all biological organisms have nuclei composed by the fusion of Elith?
That's interesting.
Wait, what? Come on! Even Hubert doesn't know what all that means.
Then, how do I know it?
How should I know? But you'll probably remember soon enough. Now let's get moving, okay?
Who am I?
That smacks to me of the kind of phonic particle physics that we get in Tales of the Abyss. I hope the fact that they're talking about it with that level of granularity this early on in the story portends that it'll be a similarly large part of the narrative going forward. Because when Tales does that kind of sort of physics and metaphysics-based storytelling across an entire arc, I am almost always blown away by it. I feel like they have a really good handle on how to do that. Forge a contract of blessing and healing with the wind here, whatever that means. Everything's air until it's mana, bro. Didn't you read my article? I know you read my article. I'm messing with you. Does it count as being a mega nerd if the information is just like hanging around in you, though, and you don't even know how you got it? I feel like there's something insistent and effortful about the nerd gathering and lording that information over everyone else. No, Grail. You have to start it further back, because as we learned after our eventually fruitful effort that threatened to never end in the Heavenly Step, everything isn't just malevolence. Everything is a bet made between competing factions of Seraphim at the start of the universe. Oh, I learned so much from EX Dungeons. Aren't we due for a new Soul Calibur at some point? I feel like I mean, that's not a series that I follow, but I did always enjoy it growing up, and I feel like the last one that was published was ages ago at this point, wasn't it? Wasn't it the one that had Geralt in it?
Here we go! Take that!
Over already?
Critical hits are particularly damaging strikes that aren't based on fixed percentages, but rather on when your CC increases. In other words, when your crit gauge goes up. But be careful. If you get hit, the gauge will go down. It's all about balance and building momentum. I can get behind that. Oh no, so is the prevailing thinking that they're done with new Soul Calibur? Is that what you mean, Gray? That would be really sad.
I think that's all of them.
I mean, that's been a staple franchise forever. Yes, that is one of the things I do remember about this game, Grail, that the enemies can get all the same perks and heavy punishing hits as you can. Part of what made it very challenging, but also very interesting to me as a kid. You don't oftentimes get that sort of symmetry between heroes and villains, in terms of the gameplay mechanics, I mean. Do you have a discovery book? No one has ever filed a complete collection of all the world's discoveries. Challenge accepted.
Ready, everyone? Take a look at this.
I do think that Soul Calibur 2 was my point of entry to the series back when I first got my GameCube. I loved that. Back in the days when I would rent games from Blockbuster and play them for a few weeks at a time. It was one of my Blockbuster go-tos, Soul Calibur.
Oh, wow.
Was Soul Calibur Legends the one on the Wii? I have a lot of fond memories of that too. I think that was the only campaign that I played through, and I remember really being pleasantly surprised by it. I'm sure, yes. I mean, baby Aaron was just getting exposed to Zelda, so it was an easy crossover.
Wow, you can see so far.
Lhant's not the only place with a great view. Sometimes I have the Royal Guard escort me here. I find it relaxing. All you see is land and sky and green. There's no pain, no suffering, just beauty.
Oh. I have to pull a reference because this reminds me of something really specific. Can I find it? Yeah, that's what it is. I couldn't, for the life of me, I couldn't remember the name of it, even though it's one of the most iconic paintings of all time. And a very typical association with the sublime. I don't remember whether the painting actually has anything to do with Kant or if it's just oftentimes referenced in conversation with Kant, but I'll share it here while we're on this shot because this is like the perfect time to be looking at it side by side. Wanderer Above the Sea of Fog by Caspar David Friedrich, which I would bet dollars to donuts is a painting you have seen before. And interesting to have that context in mind as we're thinking about and being introduced to Richard's character in his childhood. Because it's almost, especially with his outfit, like it smacks of that aesthetic so much one has to wonder whether it was intentional.
I see this and ask myself, why must men fight? Why do all arguments inevitably lead to war? I would give anything to build a world without conflict. But I suppose that's just a silly dream.
No, you can do it, Richard.
Yeah, take a look. Read up even just on the Wikipedia page, Grail. I think I'll be thinking of it because, I mean, there's a lot of, I guess we could call it lore behind that painting. And in terms of a lot of the ways in which it's been contextualized and used in various kinds of philosophical discussions, I feel like it informs how we might read Richard in some pretty direct ways.
When you become king, you can create any world you want.
I wasn't going to say that, but that sentiment is not unrelated to what I'm talking about.
My father used to say that same thing, but then...
Yes, talk about maybe the best named painting of all time, right, Pottery? Like, there is only one painting that could bear that name, and it is that.
Then what? You can't tell anyone this, but my father isn't sick. He was poisoned.
What? Who would do that?
There are many who stand to gain by my father's death. And when I become king someday, those same people will come for me as well.
They try to kill you? Who are they? Let me at him. I'll take them right now.
Oh, Asbel.
Poor Richard.
He's too pure for this world.
It's okay. I just have to be extra careful from now on.
If you ever need anything, Richard, you just come to me.
I like to think that this was also what Lloyd was like when Lloyd was at Asbel's age, you know? Because Lloyd, even when we see him at the beginning of Tales of Symphonia and he's a bit older, he still has that diamond in the rough sense of justice that then is chiseled and refined over the course of Tales of Symphonia. So turn back the clock on that a little bit and make it even more childish, and I feel like you get 11-year-old Asbel.
Thanks, Asbel. I will. Come on, we should go back to the city.
Yeah, that's right, too, Gregos. The Iago type, if you will. Damn, that is a great vista, isn't it? Now we're the wanderer above the sea of fog. After that, yeah, I would say definitely Grail. So we should definitely keep in mind that sense of its largeness as we continue through the story and see if it lives up to that as we get an expanded sense of it through navigation and not just through the background vistas. Unexpected comparisons are what I'm here for, Chrissy. Wittgenstein said something in his later life like, I don't invent new ways of thinking, I invent new comparisons or analogies. Me too, my man. Me too. I'm going to ask you all to excuse me for just 1 second because I can hear my dog actually losing her mind in the background, so I want to just make sure she's okay since she's not on the couch. I don't know if I've mentioned this before to the stream, but my dog is very sweet, and she can get very hyper-focused, as corgis are wont to do, and I'm sure she also gets that from me, because as people who know me know, I can also get hyper-focused on projects. But she has these two bones that she loves more than God, and if she loses access to them, she'll start freaking out, so I had inadvertently closed off the door to one of the rooms in which one of her bones was, and she was losing her mind over the door being closed. Kind of like Asbel, back when he needed Sophie to break down the door for him. And if you can hear the squeaking in the background now, that is the squeaking of a dog satisfied. But good dog dad after a fashion. See, at least I heard her and solved the problem. We have to look out for the little repeatlets in our life. maybe now we'll have occasion to go back to the Knight Academy since it said explore the sites, and we weren't able to go there before. I will say, since we're talking about ways in which people find and engage with the terrible fate, which, by the way, is always a conversation that I love to hear about because it helps us to better understand how we can reach like-minded gamers. But one of the things that has been so fun about working through Tales of Praxis and really rewarding for me on a personal level is I really do feel like it's got to be something in the water with these games. And I think a big part of it is the ethos that the games themselves espouse and advocate for. Like, the fans of them are so positive and so supportive of diverse thoughts and views and ways in which to engage them. This at least has been my experience, which you don't always get in readings and interpretations about video game stories. Like, I have so much love for the Final Fantasy series, and I've written and published quite a bit on that as well. This doesn't always happen, but sometimes, like, you'll get people who have this kind of just animosity and almost reflexive resentment of people trying to offer new commentary or views on games that they already have very strong opinions about, which can be a pretty demoralizing thing to experience after you spend a lot of time and effort to think through these stories and interpret them and share them with others as a new means of viewing them and having conversations about them. So to have the totally opposite experience with the Tales community and just see people really just dive into the mode of interpretation that I'm trying to offer through Tales of Praxis and appreciate it for the community and conversation as much as, you know, the work that goes into the written publication and everything, that means a lot. And it really recommends the series to me all the more by virtue of its fan base in a way that is very special and we should not take for granted. And we should look to emulate in all of the different communities we inhabit, literary and otherwise.
Crap, it's my dad. Was that Asbel?
Oh, and it's a nice little advert for the publication too, Chrissy, that it's now been so long that I didn't even remember that's how you initially found us, but that's such a nice memory to have recalled to the front of my mind. And I'm so glad you did find it. Look at Silent Hill, bringing people together for heartwarming and not terrifying reasons.
You can come out, Asbel. They've seen
If there's one thing the series is known for, it's that.
Well, I guess it's time to face the music.
Asbel? I don't believe what I'm seeing.
Lord Aston, I must return to the boat and continue with preparations.
Yes, of course. I leave it to you, Mr. Oswell.
Goodbye for now, Hubert. I look forward to seeing you again.
Yes. Goodbye.
Asbel, what are you doing here? And Prince Richard, is that you? What's going on?
Well, you see...
No, that's not Richard. That's my new brother, Tiger Festival. Hubert abandoned me, so I had to replace him.
Never mind. It doesn't matter. I suppose I can forgive you this time.
His hats do not stink.
Your Highness, I pray my son causes you no further trouble.
Dad?
I must return to the inn. When you're finished with the prince, meet me inside.
Well, foreboding, but the other thing I immediately thought of, Grail, because for a second I was like, oh, why is Aston being so forgiving of his son Asbel? But then I remembered, oh, Aston also acknowledged very quickly that Richard is there, right? So one has to wonder whether it's more performative for Richard's sake and kind of deference to the crown rather than actually, being kind to Asbel for Asbel's sake.
He's never this nice. What's going on? Wait, great. Why do I care? I don't have to sneak around anymore. This is great.
Are you alright, Hubert? You're being awfully quiet. Are you upset we've been exploring the town without you?
Look, we weren't trying to leave you out. It just sort of happened.
They did this on my behalf, but we should have invited you along. I'm sorry, Hubert.
We spent the whole time trying to hide Richard from people. We had to pretend he was our big brother and everything.
What about me? Am I still your brother?
Oh, this poor kid.
Huh? What are you talking about? Of course you are.
Yes, of course.
What's gotten into you?
Maybe he doesn't want to share his only brother. Maybe he thinks we stole you away from him.
Hey, cut it out. That's enough. You're embarrassing me. I know what to do. Let's take Hubert out and show him around.
Stranger in your own family.
Perhaps you would like to see the castle.
That's pretty
Can you
sad.
really get us all in?
Well, we'd probably have to sneak you in after dark. We can't use the front door, but I know a secret passageway that'll work.
That's awesome.
I found out about it from some old documents. I just tried it a few days ago. It leads from the castle to a building called the Royal Sanctuary.
Oh, that's the place Asbel didn't care about.
This is a great plan.
Now he cares about it.
Then it's settled. We'll meet tonight in front of the Royal Sanctuary.
We'll be there.
I have to get back before people start to miss me. See you tonight.
See you later. This is gonna be great. I told you we could count on Richard. I'm so excited. Aren't you excited, Hubert?
Sure.
Okay, let's head back to the inn and wait for it to get dark. This is gonna be seriously great.
Oh no, not the dreaded second son title. Hubert, no. Second son of Lhant's Lord Aston. Might he secretly wish he could be Lord someday too? It is kind of sad. So clearly we saw the story hammering home how isolated poor Hubert feels from his own brother and his brother's friend group in that last scene. But to me, it also invites the question of just what is it that Asbel is looking for, and why can't he find it in his own brother? Because if you think about the two new relationships in Asbel's life since the start of the game's narrative, we have on the one hand Sophie, whom he's tried to take under his protection as this kind of what he's modeled in his head as a helpless person who doesn't know anything about the world and whom he wants to take under his wing, even though that evidently doesn't comport with reality. And then on the other hand, we have Richard, who he's already seeing as this kind of pretend brother figure. So it seems almost like in the two particular relationships he's trying to enact with new people outside of his family, he's sort of synthesizing the different aspects of like having a younger brother, between having someone to protect and also having someone who has that sort of fraternal bond, which you can imagine how that would make poor Hubert feel all the more, not even isolated, but alienated. Like, what is my role in this family if my brother is looking to everyone besides me to satisfy the role that I'm most naturalistically suited for? You think so, Grail? And yeah, I would be the wrong person to ask. You would be the right person to ask. So I'm interested in your perspective for sure. Yeah, and maybe, I mean, that's something to keep an eye on too as the game progresses, right? The idea of biological family versus the family you choose and the relationships that you seek out outside of your biological unit, right? Because maybe part of it is the sort of like the sibling tension of having this expectation of a certain bond just from birth without having really forged it. And so almost resenting or having trouble wrapping your head around that because it was just foisted upon you. Whereas with relationships like those which Asbel has already with Sophie and Richard, He has much more agency over going very much out of his way and against the will of his family in order to enact them. So maybe it's part of trying to, work out Asbel's sense of what he wants out of the relationships in his life by taking on a more effortful role in them as opposed to sort of the passive role that we can fall into with our biological family members. Yeah, interesting. And as the plot in all caps continues to unfold, I'm sure we'll have much more to talk about on this front. Well, let's go see Aston first. I do like it when the NPCs give us little prompts like that to tell us where we can go before advancing the story. Oh, I thought it would be a little conversation or a scene, but nope. Your father has work to do, he said in the third person. Interesting, yeah, so maybe something is up in terms of what Aston is working through because he seems to still be relatively unusually kind to Asbel even though Richard is no longer with the party. Alright, let's rest and keep things going. Maybe even that little bit of, denied gameplay could reinforce Asbel's fraught relationship with his father, too. The idea that, if you think about what just happened, as I said, we were pretty clearly signaled by the innkeeper, oh, your dad's in his room if you want to go talk to him. And so as players, especially if we're seeking out little side conversations and character moments, I think, of course, a lot of people are going to do what I just did. But that idea that, especially at the moments when Asbel might want to talk to his father is unwilling to give him that attention and actually talk to him and just kind of brushes him off in the way that he did. I think that's an interesting gameplay-driven way of reinforcing a lot of what we've already seen borne out about the relationship. Oh, that's right. We're leaving to go meet up with Richard. I got so distracting with wanting to talk to Asbel's dad that I forgot the actual mission.
All right, let's head to the Royal Sanctuary. Hopefully Richard's already there.
I'll tag up here. Image training. Oh, is the cat going to give us a tutorial also? Amazing. A tutorial. Sorry, I was tuning out for a second because I can hear my mischievous daughter gnawing on something behind the green screen. I'm going to choose to believe it's one of her chew toys. I'll find out after the stream.
Is this the Royal Sanctuary?
A very niche problem for you to be having, Grail, feeling as though you kill things too quickly. So how far are you in the game? Is it like, do you expect the difficulty to ramp up just in terms of progressing through the story, and so you don't want to preempt it? Is that the tension?
It seems like it.
I don't see Richard. I guess we'll just have to wait.
Typical waiting shenanigans.
Man, he's really late.
Maybe we should give up and go back to the inn. Something important probably came up.
Richard would never break his word. He'll come, I know it.
The certitude Asbel has towards Richard, despite having just met him. I love it. Showing in real time, I guess, the import of that childhood friendship oath. Yeah, take a look, Chrissy. All the VODs are up on YouTube also, but also more than happy to discuss at some point if you want.
Long enough.
I really came around on the way it turned out. I'm really excited to revisit it in probably the next standalone work that I write. I'm losing confidence that will happen before Beyond the Dawn comes out, which I was really hoping I would have time for, but we're also just getting into the weekend, which is when Aaron does a lot of his most focused writing, so never say never. I'm sure I'll have updates one way or another on Monday. Great minds think alike, Grail. You definitely have the option to watch the Aaron Terrible Fate streams.
It's very late now. We should.
I thought his commentary on the game was okay. I don't know about you all.
I don't understand. Why didn't he come?
Well, maybe good not to make it harder for yourself earlier than you have to. It seems to at least counterbalance what you were doing with Vesperia, so I also like to think that maybe you've earned a little bit of a break in an easier time, Grail, but I get that that's not maybe in the spirit of your challenge run.
Hey guys, come here. I found something.
Can we crawl through that?
Well, Grail, I mean, it's a streamed experience, so everything happens on an accelerated timeline. And you didn't see me on all of the days when I wasn't streaming, having long therapy sessions with Evie saying, "Oh, I don't know why they've changed my name to Aaron Terrible Fate. Maybe if I offer them exclusive perks, they'll call me by my actual name." So bargaining, I went through all the stages. Just it didn't all happen on the stream.
Come on, let's check it out.
Yeah, I get that, Chrissy. I have no idea how people can put the stream on in the background. Props to those of you who do, because I know you exist, but I can never do that with people who are talking and thinking through things in the background, because the same thing happens to me that you're describing, Chrissy. So I admire those who can. I was gonna throw the camera around to challenge and shame my little four-legged daughter, who's, I'm sure you can hear, raising hell in the background because she showed up on the couch for a second, but I guess she's too antsy because the minute I turned around, she was gone. Waters of Absolution. I can't wait to wash my hands of this. The boy who knew everything.
This water purifies one's body for the absolution of worldly sins in the hereafter.
Asbel, do you have any idea what you're saying right now?
Nope, not a clue. How about you, Sharia?
I don't really know either.
It means that even if you did a bunch of bad stuff when you were alive,
You'll be forgiven when you die.
I knew Hubert would know.
Yeah, I can only do it with music or shows that I know really, really well, like the back of my hand, which is usually what I like for white noise, like Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, old school sitcoms like Seinfeld. Give me that shit in the background any day of the week. Honestly, sometimes I feel like it helps me focus and feel more at home than silence or music. I don't know what that says about me, but probably a bunch of stuff you already know.
You should pay more attention, Asbel. I won't always be around to explain things to you.
What's up with her?
Asbel,
Sorry, Hubert. What did you say?
forget it.
Oh, come on, don't get all sulky now.
Boy, Hubert definitely adds a different kind of tension to their friend dynamic, doesn't he? Oh, wow. That sounds like harrowing news, Chrissy.
This
Is it
must
a
be
UK
the entrance
thing?
to the secret passage.
You safe where you are? Hope you're staying safe. Not to refocus from that onto the game, but I mean this was much more in our face than everything that happened with the garden and the fall off the cliff. But Waters of Absolution, of course, add another tally to the board for thinking about various notions of religiosity and spiritualism and the cleansing of sin and the purification, like all deeply of a piece with what we were talking about at the end of last stream and the start of this one.
Well, we've come this far. Might as well go inside.
Oh, I did hear about that. Yeah, because my family's in the Northeast, actually. Nowhere near that, but just I get the news alerts.
No, it's dark in there and probably dangerous. Plus, what if Richard comes while we're in there?
Richard has to use the passageway to get here, right? We'll just meet him on the way. Ooh, maybe we can find him and scare him. Come on, let's go.
This is also, I'm not going to say I'm the one who's bringing this up because the game stopped us in front of literal waters of absolution, but just keeping track of the way in which this motif is unfolding so we can decide whether and how to comment on it. Like the idea that we've gone from something very naturalistic and primordial in a religious conception of the world in terms of like starting out as children in the garden and then falling from that purity to now in pretty much the next sequence of the game, navigating like a man-made artifact of faith and religion, the sanctuary, and going through the catacombs of that in a sort of clandestine way in order to like circumvent society, like the guards and all of the infrastructure around the castle in order to get to our friend. Like we have two very different but pretty clearly religiously coded contexts right after each other, grounding the plot of the story. Now you sent a link, Chrissy. Oh, yes, the Muse tie into Absolution. There you go. I'll celebrate after the end of the stream listening to that. That'll be a good way to decompress. It's never too late to do something like that. Oh, I didn't mean to exit. I thought that was an investigation point. My bad. Oh, it's the same area as it was in Vesperia? Oh, the same name. Interesting. Yeah, thanks for calling that out, Grail. I wouldn't have noticed that. I was thinking in terms of like the structure of the area, and the first thing that came to mind for me just on this opening screen was the Wizened of Kados in Tales of Vesperia. I do like the way there are always these sorts of subterranean or cavernous or like underground areas in the Tales games. They do them quite well, I think. I remember you doing that at the time. Yes, I do. I knew that a Vesperia shout-out would wake you, Pottery.
I was just resting.
Yeah, the same kind of layout and even like the cave imagery and textures.
We're the toughest kids in town. But we shouldn't be out in places like this.
Yeah, definitely. I saw a lot of local shops who are shutting down and sending people home just to stay safe, Chrissy. Thankfully, no one I know was personally affected beyond that, but always so scary and sad when things like that happen. All the more important, and I don't say this in jest, I say it very sincerely, to try to figure out, how to support each other and our communities and just the infrastructure to try to mitigate the possibility of things like that happening in the real world. And I do think the conversations we have around gaming and working our way through the sorts of concepts that games like the Tales series force us to confront, I think that can serve a material purpose in helping to give us models through which to approach challenges like that.
It won't open!
Asbel, look! The gap between the door and the wall is packed full of dirt. The door won't open because it hasn't been used in a long time.
This stupid door is really pissing me off. I won't let it beat me.
How can you win or lose to a door? We need a grown-up to open it.
I want to open it and see what's on the other side. If I have to ask a grown-up, it's like I lost.
West of Tolbikia is the name of a DLC I would play.
Let's just hurry up and see Richard.
Or a musical EP to which I would listen.
Never forget this.
I don't believe this. He just vowed revenge against a door.
I love it. Suspicious Ladder, which would also be a great username for something. Oh yeah, this is laid out just like the Wizened of Kados, actually. I think the Wizened of Kados has that same little corner pocket dead end. Awesome! When I pull it off, I feel like the biggest man in the world. That's what I'm saying. Oh no, we fell through a portal into Terco Lumere. Do I need to fear a Giganto monster hiding in a corner too? The best way to increase your CC is by landing consecutive hits in battle. Successfully guarding and evading attacks, however, will also increase your CC. I don't know that I can see, I mean, literally or otherwise, like, it does seem to have all of the same structural pieces to me, having just recently spent way too much time in the Wizened of Kados. Right, that is the Giganto monster I was thinking of exactly. Reminds me a little, not as directly, but of the Toys Valley Mine in Symphonia also. That's what I'm saying, and like that's why, as much as this feels really similar to the Wizened of Kados, I don't love to think of it as just copying, because I do feel like it's a pretty standardized, just element in the world construction and language of these games, which, having played a decent number of them, is like, it's nice and almost like a, you know, moldy subterranean yet warm blanket to me as a player. You know, like there's something comforting and familiar about it, and I go in and I can say immediately, oh yeah, I know where I am, I get what the game is going to ask me to do here. Like the sewer area in Tales of the Abyss, the name of which I'm blanking on, but on your way out of the capital there, that's also a very similar level layout. A little different, but somewhat similar.
Asbel? Is it really okay to come in here like this? Hey! Stop hiding behind me, Hubert!
It's a very good point in favor of pragmatism too, Pottery. Yeah.
But, Asbel... What's that? What is what? Knock it off, Asbel!
No, look! It's right behind you! Ah! Or not! I totally fooled you guys.
That is not funny, Asbel. Hubert, can you stand?
Oh.
See?
Don't
Oh,
worry.
this poor kid.
I won't tell anyone this happened again.
Really? Think? Wait, what do you mean again? What did Asbel tell you?
Boy, that's such a surprisingly and kind of humblingly intimate experience to me to have included in the intro, especially of a Tales game. The idea of a poor scared kid wetting himself really humanizes it. Yeah, not to harp on it too, but I think this idea about like level reuse, it's a good way of kind of digging into part of why I'm interested in, you know, everything I harp on in terms of understanding the language of the Tales series with something like Tales of Praxis, because what you say, Pottery, is absolutely the case in terms of like the considerations of the industry and what it takes for studios like the Tales studio to reliably and efficiently design new games. Like the reuse of assets is a vital technical consideration for that, and figuring out how to do that in ways that retain novelty is part of what makes these games feel thematically of a piece with one another, yet also special, and also allows them to come out on a regular timeline, right? But also, like, part of the line that I'm trying to push with putting this Tales of Praxis series out there is the idea that I don't feel as if there's that much of a difference, and not as much as some people would suggest. Not anyone on the stream, but I'm talking more generally in terms of how we think about video games, between that kind of like asset reuse and the sort of, you know, what you might call motif or symbolism or narrative trope reuse that happens in stories all the time, right? Just as part of the element of storytelling. Like, everything new is somehow old. There are only so many symbols, so many character beats that one can go through in an arc, right? And part of the magic of stories is not inventing totally new concepts for, you know, themes that characters can experience, but putting together the same mosaic in slightly different ways in order to get the audience to experience radically different yet also interrelated things through all the different stories that they consume through their lifetime, right? And so I think, like, the more I've tried to understand like the technical considerations of video games as other manifestations of those kind of more foundational storytelling concepts and recombinations, with the understanding that you're playing the game as a storytelling object, which is how I engage with these, like, the more I've been able to engage with video games holistically and see them all, like, see all of the elements as constitutive of story in one kind of centrally unified and illuminating way. Yes, thank you, Grail. Good reminder. I do love the way they leave those little callouts, though.
What is it, Sophie?
Like, knowing where the story goes, I can much better understand what's going on in those little conversations.
This place is dangerous. It's not safe to be here. Asbel, look!
Huh? What the heck? I can be strong!
And there was also a bat boss at the end of the Wizened of Kados. Oh, that's funny. I probably wouldn't have clocked that had we not had that whole conversation about it. I love a good dodge in this game. Feels really nice. Yeah, maybe. We'll have to sit with that more. I wonder whether, like if we ask the question, is this area and the experience in it trying to allude to something in Vesperia? Like, is there an interesting answer there? Let's put a pin in that and think about it as we go a little further here. If you continue to guard while in the blue aura state, a green light will surround your body. If you attack while in this green aura state, enemy attacks won't stagger you when you begin to launch an art. This effect is known as the Iron Stance. Speaking of Vesperia, something we know all too well from our recent expedition through the Desolation. There is an air crane in the Wiesent, yep.
The air feels dense. Whatever it is, it's getting closer.
Perfect timing on that message with what Sophie said, Pottery.
It's not safe here. We need to leave right away.
There's nothing to worry about. We already took out the monsters.
Asbel, look! There's somebody over there!
Hey, wait a minute. Isn't that...
I'm not going to over-editorialize this scene, but I will say this particular musical theme that is playing in the background is something that is so specific and haunting in my bones. So talk about good timing playing it in Spooktober. Like, even for all I said about forgetting a lot of the finer beats of the story, like this scene in this moment and the music as much as anything have remained vivid in my mind since the first time I played this.
Asbel, don't go over there!
Richard, are you okay? Hey, Richard!
Yeah, that's exactly the case, Pottery.
Why did this have to happen to him? Saria, Hubert, look out! Saria, Hubert!
Suddenly the adventure becomes a lot more adult. Jesus Christ.
What the heck is that thing? Stay back!
No, don't!
This can't be happening. I don't believe it. Sophie.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
You will pay for this.
Good catch, Chrissy, yeah. And you can hear the emotion in her voice that wasn't present before in that last line, too. You will pay for this.
I will destroy you.
Sophie.
Yeah, right.
Thank goodness. I'm so grateful. Thank goodness you're awake.
Yeah, I think we all know who's protecting whom at this
It
point.
was a mistake. I shouldn't have brought you here. I'm so very sorry.
Asbel, I think I understand. Back when we fell off the cliff. I understand. The reason why you were happy.
Sophie! Sophie!
And stabbing them in such an inhuman and a dehumanizing way. I think that's really important. Oh. That scene still gives me just persistent chills, even playing it now.
Huh? Where?
People don't know what they're talking about. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're doing this, Grail. People don't know what they're talking about.
Asbel, you're awake.
Dad? Where am I?
You're home. You've been asleep for several days.
Where is everyone? Where's Sophie and Sharia and Hubert? And where's Richard?
Richard? I didn't hear anything about him being involved.
Richard must have made it back to the castle.
Sharia and Hubert are alive and will be fine.
What about Sophie? What happened to her?
She's dead.
Sophie's dead?
Do you see, Asbel? This is a direct result of your careless actions. You wish to be responsible for people? Start with yourself. Start by changing your attitude and obeying your father.
And to Aston's credit, in terms of what we were talking about the balance between him being abusive to Asbel and trying to temper him such that he could be a lord one day, and to the credit of Aston's voice actor, I feel like you can hear in these lines now, like, he's certainly disciplining his son, but it's coming from a place of caring and being concerned for this kid and wanting to help him grow into the man he's going to have to be. I think he's striking a chord here that really acknowledges that his son almost died and is more vulnerable a little bit, I guess as vulnerable as Aston is allowed to be in his position, in a way that we didn't hear earlier on.
Become a proper lord and dedicate your service to the memory of that poor girl.
Is that how I take responsibility for Sophie? I need to apologize to everyone.
Yeah, sad and pressing point, definitely, Dugrigus.
Sharia was quite worried about you. I suggest you look for her first.
What about Hubert?
You will not be seeing Hubert again.
What a line. And what a shot, just look at that. Right, the way the music stops, the way that Aston isn't facing his son. It's completely changing the context of his life and family with a single speech act.
What? What do you mean? I thought you said he was okay.
Hubert has been adopted by the Asbel family of Strata.
He's been adopted by the Asbel family? Wait, what are you talking about? What do you mean adopted?
I mean exactly what I said. He is Hubert Asbel now.
Are you insane? No! I refuse to accept this!
It's a very Lloyd line.
This was a very difficult decision, Asbel. I hope you can appreciate that.
This is so like you. You don't tell me your plans, you don't ask my opinion. You just do whatever you want and expect everyone to play along.
Asbel, I will not have you speak to me in that tone.
Yeah, I'm excited and interested to see what other windows into his character we get throughout this Grail, because we also have to remember that this part of the narrative we're experiencing now is focalized through Asbel. This whole sequence has been, and so I can imagine later on maybe we'll be treated to some perspectives on Aston that help us understand everything he's trying to juggle in his lordship and relations to the kingdom, and a lot of the stuff that just Asbel's not in a position to see right now, to help us get a different vantage point from which to understand his character.
I'm done, Dad. I'm done listening to you. I'll take responsibility my own way.
Then what course of action do you plan on taking?
I won't become the next Lord of Lhant.
Excuse me?
I said I won't become a lord. I'm going to train at the Knight Academy. I'll become strong enough to protect everyone.
He was never heard from again.
I won't ever let someone I care about be hurt again. Sharia?
Asbel, what happened? I heard shouting.
I'm leaving.
What?
I'm going to become a knight. The strongest knight who ever lived.
No, don't go. Please don't go. I know Sophie and Hubert are gone, but I'm still here. I'll take their place.
Man.
I'll never leave you.
You'll take their place? So you'll be my little brother instead of Hubert? You regained Sophie's memories for her, even though she's dead?
What a thing to say to a person.
Don't you get it? Hubert is gone! And we'll never see Sophie again. Never!
That's not... I'm sorry.
Oh, damn it!
I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it.
I'm sorry, Sharia. I'm angry. But it's not your fault. It's all my fault.
Does that mean you'll stay?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the sequence does a great job of representing that, Dugregus. Absolutely.
I'll help you, Asbel. I'll help however I can.
Oh, interesting, Chrissy. I missed that.
Sharia. I'm sorry. I know I said I'd stay, but I can't spend another day in Lhant. Inheriting my father's title isn't enough. If I'm not stronger, I run the risk of hurting or losing someone again.
So notice, again, this is in the main story now, but this whole turn in Asbel's decision-making and trajectory in life also is founded upon the rejection of a title. So that motif is
I
continuing.
have to become strong to ensure that never happens. So that's why I'm leaving. I'm sorry, Sharia.
I can imagine it being important to the structure of a kingdom that the ruler has to willingly accept it. Like once he rejects the mantle of Lord of Lhant, I don't know that there's much anyone can do about it, even if they might want to or wish something different for him. That would be my guess, at least, Grail, without getting more context about it.
Hey, excuse me. My name is Asbel Lhant. Is anybody in there? I'm here to enlist in the academy. I'm leaving this place in
The most precocious 11-year-old in the world. Ugh, amazing. So we'll go on and then wrap things up for the evening, but I want to take a moment to pause before we do, because there are two things that were really vivid in my head about Tales of Graces going into this playthrough, on account of which I was really excited about replaying it. One, you'll be shocked to hear, was the ending. And two is what we just saw. I think that transition from the childhood adventure into everything falling apart in such an emotionally moving way, where it totally lures you into this childhood notion of innocence and naivety, and just the kind of like shield that children feel they have in terms of being invincible and nothing can hurt them. And Asbel all the more so, because he's the firstborn son of a lord and he's hanging out with the prince of the kingdom. And they're just going on what might seem like a slice of life adventure, whimsically exploring the countryside with this girl they found who's learning how to become a human. And it's all very cute. And the way in which everything just turns on a dime when that monster shows up in the cavern, and it just becomes almost immediately clear. Like, you can feel it in your bones even before Asbel starts talking with Aston and Sharia and everyone. Like, things will never be the same after that event. And I hope to goodness that none of you has had that kind of childhood trauma that transformed your entire life on a dime like that. But that kind of life experience unequivocally exists. And to me, I think one of the things that this game does perhaps better than any other game that I've played, at least in my memory right now, is representing that kind of foundational trauma that you cannot expect, you cannot prepare for, you cannot understand how your perspective on the world will be different afterwards than it was before, but it completely transforms you as a person just by virtue of what it does to you. We talked about the scoring being a huge part of that. I think the degree to which that monster who shows up, who I'm sure we'll learn more about at some point, is just human enough to register as a humanoid, and yet is still so disfigured and non-human, is so unsettling. And like you were saying, Grail, in terms of the way it just impales people with these things that are more like spikes than hands, and doesn't really have any respect for or even understanding of human life. Like, that is so othering and horrifying and completely outside the paradigm of how these kids understand the world and their place in it, and just causes all sense of safety to completely evaporate, right? One thing that I found myself thinking about this time going through it was, we know that in the Tales games, even at this earlier point in the series, relatively speaking, like, there's an established language for telling storytelling beats where you don't have a hope of beating an enemy by throwing you into a fight as a player that you're not designed to win. So it's like a scripted failure in the story. I think it's really interesting that with that enemy, they don't give you that setup. Like, there's not even an opportunity to try to fight it. Like, you as the player have lost all your agency. You're just powerless to be forced to watch this monstrous thing with no explanation completely decimate these kids, and you can't even try to intervene, to the point that it even becomes a cutscene, not even something that is animated in the way in which you could interact with it according to gameplay content. I'm sure there are a million more things we could say about it, but I have such, not even respect, I have awe for the way that maybe like 15 minutes of story is woven into this game. And I think a big part of what comes afterwards totally turns on that and our understanding of it, and what it takes to process that. So I'm really excited to do all that with you. Also amazing too, because I think a big part of what makes it resonate so much is how much time they give you in the world before it happens. Like, I had been expecting going into this that we would reach that point at the end of the first stream, but it took like 5 or 6 hours to get there. They really make you feel as if, okay, this is the world and this is the kind of game that you're playing, and give you enough experience in that world to lull you into this sense of security, only to seize it away from you. And that's really harrowing. And like I said, as I was watching it, really chilling, literally and figuratively. Yeah, so sad that the game ends there, Grail. Oh, Duke Gregos, I am really sorry that you know someone to whom that happened. But yeah, I mean, I think the thing that makes this so impactful, no, I don't want to talk over the time skip here, but I think the sad thing is, in one way or another, we all either are that person or know that person, right? Which is part of what I was saying before, where I really do feel like these games in so many ways can have a material impact on how we're able to be in the world and hopefully help those people in our lives whom we care about. Wait, what was the question about Kingdom Hearts 2 and 1, Grail? I missed that. I also, this is a much less substantive point, but I don't know what this says about me or the structure of the game, but I remember when I played this for the first time years ago too, having this deep feeling, not at the time skip, but a little bit before it, saying like, man, I was buying into this as the game, but now it's almost starting to feel to me like Ocarina of Time. And I know we've joked in previous streams about the relationship between this and Ocarina of Time, but now we're here. Now we can talk about it. Like, I think there are certain thematic elements, and it would be interesting to pick apart how it is that Graces does this, where going through that childhood sequence, if you've played Ocarina of Time and have that model in your mind, you might be like Aaron and say, man, I feel like this needs to jump just like 7 years to be in the right context for a typical Tales story. And so then when this dialogue came up on the screen, it was one of those few moments in my gaming history where I actually like unequivocally called where the plot was going next, which I don't think is to my credit so much as it is to the credit of the game. Oh, well, I mean, it's interesting to think about how to model that, Grail. Like because I almost feel like I can see why people think about that sequence as a tutorial or an intro, and I begrudgingly get why the game, as you mentioned earlier, like, or actually Pottery, I think you mentioned this, I can see why they give you the option to skip it in subsequent playthroughs, but there's part of me that feels like that's the wrong way to think of it. Like, I really do think it's just like the first chapter, or even like a short story that then the rest of the game is like commentary or engagement with. Like, I think I know that there are many people who do sort of model it as a tutorial, and I feel like when you think of it that way, you do sort of set yourself up to be let down or confused by it because it is so long, right? Almost maybe to think of it better as like sort of a DLC that's bolted onto the front as opposed to the back or something. I don't know the best way to put it. Yeah, put together Heldolf and the time skip from Zisteria and Graces respectfully, and you synthesized most of Ocarina of Time. Then we just need something for the sages. I guess that's something like the Entelecheia becoming spirits. So yeah, throw in some Vesperia, as we are wont to do, and you've got basically the full gamut of Ocarina of Time. Let's see what happens next, and then we'll wrap things up for the evening.
It went that way. Right. We will survive.
Right into a new tutorial. A whole new way to play. We have B arts now. They tend to differ among characters to a greater extent than A arts. Learn how to use each to your advantage. So now the whole battle system opens up. And so quickly after, like we were saying, the much more gentle pacing of the childhood sequence.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, but it wants to be, right? I almost like that it throws you right into battle, because when you have a gentler introduction to a 7-year time skip, that almost strikes me as disingenuous, right? Like, how can you skip that amount of time and experience in one's life and feel as if you can settle into it, right? That's almost an impossible ask. What is the referent to this in that comment, Grail? You mean just because you don't get the whole battle system until the time skip? You may have noticed a blue gauge to the left of the CC number. Did you also notice that you tend to get critical hits when this is full? So perhaps you should fill this gauge, and perhaps letting it fall is not the best idea. My, the narrative voice is feeling cheeky 7 years later. I don't want to put forward too many hypotheses, Chrissy, so I think the only thing I would say as we go forward there is let's ask the question, like, given that we're now in the future and given that the event we witnessed is certainly the kind of thing that would have aftermath, let's ask the question of how is the rest of the game going to represent that aftermath to us? Because I know what you mean. I also think, like, part of why the game is going in this direction with it is because it wants to sort of give us a different and maybe subversive way of wrapping our heads around what aftermath consists in and what it is to process and gain access to that. And yeah, I get that about the battle system, Grail. It just feels like such a loss to me to skip that key part of the story. My man.
Well done, Asbel. I see my worries about your first field mission were completely unfounded.
Favorite voice actor in the whole world.
My success is due to your superior instruction.
You don't have to be so formal. Just keep... We are here to investigate Orland.
That was so weird.
Located on the far side of the forest.
Did the audio cut out for you all too? That's just like those lines just skipped. No, it wasn't me. It was the game. Bizarre. This was a fresh copy of the disc too, so I hope it's not an issue with the PS3. Well, chalk it up to it being late on a Friday night. Maybe the PS3 just needs to rest over the weekend. Cross your fingers and toes, it only happens once.
It has a population of about 50, give or take, mostly employed in forestry. A few days
All has its
ago,
own special
the
nuances.
Lights received word that the residents of Orland had suddenly vanished without a trace. Our mission is to meet the Knights investigating the area and provide them with whatever assistance they require.
Understood, sir.
It's an unusual mission. Keep your guard up and be prepared for anything. This concludes the briefing.
Yeah, you do. You would know him from Persona 5. Amongst probably many other things, but that's what I know that you've played that he's been in. Jamieson Price. I should not just assume we all know his name, and it's always worth saying a great voice actor's name. The man, the myth, the legend. There you go, Grail. Yeah, picture him telling you how to brew a good cup of coffee, Chrissy, and you're golden. No pun intended with reference to the Persona series. All right, well, it took a couple of slightly longer streams. Well, because it's a very different character, in some ways. In other ways, as we'll see, maybe not. So, twice as long as expected to get through what is typically known as the childhood arc, or the childhood sequence in Tales of Grace's F. And now here we are, back down from a full and diverse party of kids to a single knight in training who is now 18 instead of 11, 7 years after quite a trauma that, as we talked about, has yet to be unpacked and which certainly will warrant a lot of unpacking. So, not bad for kicking off the stream on a week when we only did it for 2 days. I think that's the perfect way in which to start Tales of Grace's F. And then starting on Monday, we will be rolling into a new arc and see how it introduces new conflicts, new characters, reintroduces old characters maybe, we'll see, and unfolds the overall journey of what it is that this game wants us to think about. and consider across the many hours I'm sure we'll spend thinking about it together, which God knows I'm excited about, and I hope you are too. Skill issue. Yeah, exactly. Friends, as always, this has been, oh my goodness, so fun. Grail, always great to see you. Pottery, Chrissy, Dugregas, it was great to see you again. If you enjoyed this, I hope you do consider coming back and hanging out again for further adventures in the stream. It's going to be a great journey with, I think, a lot of insights and plenty to build upon as we work through it. Yeah, it was great to see you too. I'm glad you're back too. Cheers, everybody. All right. Well, this was a great one. Yeah, I won't belabor the good night, but we had plenty to think about this week. We'll hopefully have more updates on Tales of Praxis more broadly on Monday. If you like this, if you're watching it on YouTube and you're interested in joining the real life JRPG party, it's still nice and early in the playthrough, so it's a good time to do that. We do it every Monday, Wednesday, Friday on Twitch, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. So we'll be back here on Monday to do the very same thing. Looking forward to it. I'm sure I'll have more thoughts on Fantasia too as I digest my completed replay of that, and plenty more on the rise as we get ready for Beyond the Dawn and everything in between with tales, philosophy, storytelling, and otherwise. All right, until then, friends, think well, game well. I'm Aaron Suduko, the founder of With the Terrible Fate. Go read a video game over this weekend and be good to yourself, all right? I'll see you again on Monday. Cheers.